I know. I think she changed her hair now.
Hi, Gloria.
Hello.
I
highlighted it.
Are you talking about me?
I'm just saying hello. They're talking. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Borough of Englewood Cliffs Mayor and Council special meeting. Today is February 22nd, and it's 6:37 p.m. Madam Clerk, may I have a roll call?
Mayor Kranjak,
Here.
Councilperson Zaversa, E. Park,
Here.
O.
Here.
McMorrow,
Here.
M. Park,
Here.
Wu,
Here.
Borough Attorney,
Present.
Superintendent of DPW,
Here.
Borough Engineer,
Here.
and Municipal Clerk. Everyone's present, Mayor, except Councilman Aversa.
Okay, thank you. Let's begin, as we always begin, with the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, will you please read the Open Public Meetings Act statement?
Adequate notice of this meeting was given to the press and posted as required. Date and time of this meeting was legally given as required by the Open Public Meetings Act. This notice is on file with the municipal clerk and posted on the bulletin board. Minutes of this meeting will be made available to the public upon the completion of typing and proofreading by the municipal clerk.
Thank you. We have some business for closed session, so may I have a motion to go into closed session, please?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Madam Clerk, will you please read the appropriate language for us to go into closed session? Thank you.
Resolution 1751, whereas NJSA 10:4-12 allows for a public body to go into closed session during a public meeting, and whereas the mayor and council of the Borough of Englewood Cliffs has deemed it necessary to go into closed session to discuss certain matters which are exempted from the public. Now therefore be it resolved that the mayor and council of the Borough of Englewood Cliffs will go into closed session for the following reason as outlined in NJSA 10:4-12. Personnel, Borough Administrator position.
Okay, thank you. We'll see everyone shortly. Have a motion to come back in closed session, please?
So moved. Second.
What was it, who seconded? No? All in favor? Mayor, if I may report that Councilman Aversa arrived at 6:45 and went straight into closed session.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
May I have a motion to open up to the public for comment, please?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we're going to open up the meeting to the public for any comments that you may have. Please come up to the microphone, state your name and address. That was quick. Yes.
Tony Senator, 36 Rock Road. I actually would like to read a statement on behalf of Rafi Jaffrey, who couldn't be here. His father's been hospitalized, emergency surgery that they had to perform.
Yes, thank you.
I apologize I could not make the meeting tonight due to a family emergency. On behalf of the Englewood Cliffs Little League, thank you to Mayor and Council President for leading the way on the feasibility study to look at ways to improve Johnson Field. Thank you to the entire council for your consideration to improve our field, our kids, parents, and community. For our kids, parents, and community. We need a field that matches the energy, enthusiasm, and dedication of our kids, parents, coaches, and community. With respect to the Little League, we are the only town in District 6 that does not have either lights or turf. This alone decreases the playtime opportunity that our kids have in relation to other peer towns and competitors in Little League. The demands of our Nealville Field are stretched. In fact, that is an understatement. This spring, we will have 8 total teams from recreation to travel between April and June playing on that field. Given the fact that we should only play during daylight, the times our field can be used is limited. Also, with the natural occurrence of rainouts, our kids' playtime is further decreased. Finally, it is very hard to volunteer coaches to make it in time for 5 p.m. games, which is our home time game at Johnson Field. By comparison, other weeknight games in other towns start at 6 o'clock. Lights and Turf will help maximize the experience for our kids and support our volunteer parents and community members who put so much into our program. Finally, it is disingenuous to suggest that anyone here is advocating for turf that will harm our children. This narrative is nothing but a scare tactic that supports inaction and stagnancy. We are not rolling the dice as the first time in America that is considering turf. There is safe turf and it is widely used. Demand has grown to the point where more than 8,000 multi-use synthetic turf fields are now enjoyed in North American schools, colleges, parks, professional sports stadiums. About half of all NFL teams currently play on their games on synthetic turf. And since 2003, over 70 FIFA U17 and U20 World Cup matches have been played on synthetic turf for soccer games. I hope the debate tonight can move past doomsday rhetoric and focus instead on something that is widely used and enjoyed by many kids and communities across the country. Sincerely, Rafi Jaffer. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Yes. Okay.
First of all, I would like to...
I'm sorry, name and address, please?
Yes. My name is Andrew Stiver, live at 750 Lloyd Street
Thank you.
in the cul-de-sac. First of all, I wanted to actually thank the borough for publicizing this meeting and also putting a link to the Mazer study, which made it very easy for me to read all 250 pages of it.
You're welcome.
And I appreciate that. And first of all, I have a few questions that came up after I read the study. There are now lights that appear on the walking path around the field. And when they were put in, the poles are actually plastic. And so when there's a storm, some of them break and fall down. So I wanted to ask, are those going to be replaced? And are they going to be replaced with metal poles? Or maybe they're not going to be metal. So if you could answer that. Yeah.
What's that?
Hold to the presentation. You gonna answer?
I think this is not,
That's no problem.
probably a question I should answer.
If you can answer it, otherwise, just go back and answer it next
The
time.
presentation tonight is viewed upon the field itself, the uses it has, and options you have, specifics of light poles, benches, different types of landscaping and treatments. Is it specific of our design options? If the mayor and council decides to go forward and institute some type of design here, we would then take your question into consideration and look at different types of poles we have, whether they be metal or plastic or whatever they may be. We're not, that's a detail, we're not there yet.
Okay.
But your point is well taken, though.
Yeah, great
We've
point,
noted
great
it.
point, we're on notice, great point.
Right. And then I noticed that, well, I just looking at your plans, I had some questions. So you have a solar charging pole for cell phones and perhaps portable computers. Is this really needed now that we have portable chargers? And there's also some concern that these public chargers can be hacked.
Again, it's an option that's available in public spaces today in America. It's very commonplace. I don't know if we're going to put it in or not put it in. It's an option that's available, so we don't even know the option's available, but details of whether or not we will. Because, you know, the mayor council has to decide whether they want to go forward with the design or rehabilitation of the park. The specific details, we can then go down the option and go, we want this, we don't want that, we want this, we don't want that. That'll be a separate design element when we get to the design.
Okay, and then my next question, I think you will answer this one. There's a shed that is 14 by 31, and I'm just asking where you're going to put it. I think you're putting it near the basketball court, on that on that cement slab.
That is correct. Our plans call for a storage facility on site, and the site significantly has no storage on it, it's even under storage. So we propose to put it on the existing slab that's back there for that use. That's the proposal, but again, it'll be design detail when we actually get there, and it has to be funded before we get there.
Okay. And then lastly, because I live adjacent to the field, I'm very sensitive to what is going to happen and how it's going to affect the homeowners around Johnson and Floyd. And so I know that there are different types of lights, and some lights might be better than others, like LED lights. I know that synthetic turf, that we have choices. We could use ground-up truck tires, or we could use cork, which may be better and may be safer. So I'm just making a plea that when decisions are made, that the council tries to make the best decisions they can for not only the players, the Little League players, but the people who live on Johnson and Floyd and who are very near and going to be impacted, they're going to be affected by what's going on, and to make their life as easy as possible and not affect their quality of life. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council Member Gerard Miss, from Sanford Drive. First, I had a question. I wasn't exactly sure what the purpose of the special meeting was. Is it just for the presentation, or is there going to be a vote on proposal at some point tonight?
No vote that I'm aware of, right? Just a presentation.
And I'll just give you my thoughts on it, and I did have a chance to read the proposal.
If I just might jump in to make it easier for the residents, we can open up after Andy's presentation solely for questions that may come up after his presentation.
Fine, I can wait.
You can still speak now if you
No,
want,
wait,
but I'm
no.
just saying, is that okay, Mayor, with you?
Yeah, that's fine.
I'll wait.
Because there might be more questions
Yeah.
from all of us. I mean,
Thank you.
I don't know.
Did you want to, do we need to close this portion, or just?
Well, no, you need to ask anyone else if they
All
want to
right.
speak.
Is there anyone else that wants to speak right now? Otherwise, you want to speak
Or
right
you
now?
can hold till later.
Well, no, we can speak on this now. I had a question about the new hire, like, is that?
No, come.
New hire.
Yeah.
Okay. Gilbert Sabari, 106 Hollywood Avenue. I saw on the agenda that we're hiring a new borough administrator. So I was just wondering what the cost of that was going to be, and when actually that's going to take place, and how that's going to affect us financially, really, which is usually my concern about everything.
The start date is
March
Wednesday.
6th.
The start date is March 6th. The agenda tonight has the resolution. We also advertised that we were going to have the salary ordinance, so both of those things are on for this evening. So
Okay.
you should hear that momentarily.
Great, thank you.
Is there anyone else who wants to speak right now?
There you go.
I have a motion to close the public portion.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Pass these to executive. No, you should do these things so I can.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, you don't want to. All right, so,
Those are resolutions.
yes, resolution and then the ordinance.
Okay, so we're at the point on our agenda, Resolutions 2017, number 52, appointment of Borough Administrator. Do you want to read the resolutions?
What's the standard?
Who's going to read it?
Ask who's it.
Will you read it?
Do you read the resolution?
No, Resolution 1752, resolution appointment of Borough Administrator.
All right.
We need a motion?
Have a motion for that?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to appoint Catherine Navarro Lozano as Borough Administrator.
Have a second?
Second.
Can we vote? Roll.
Councilperson Zaversa?
No, no one explained to me how we're going to fund this, so I'm voting no.
E. Park?
Yes.
O.
I'm going to vote no. I'm not fully convinced that we need a full-time administrator for the size of the town that we have. And personally, I think Ms. Duffy has been doing a great job. So my vote is no.
McMorro?
Yes.
M. Park?
Yes.
Wu?
Yes.
It passes, Mayor.
Okay, thank you.
Next.
Can you go through?
We're going to do the ordinance, yeah. Let's do the ordinance. Where do we get in?
Sure. This has been advertised in the newspaper announcement for this meeting, ordinance number 2017-03, an ordinance amending ordinance number 2016-09, fixing salaries, wages, and compensation for all salaried, appointed, and elected officers of the Borough of Englewood Cliffs, Bergen County, New Jersey. This is an amendment to place the salary for the Borough Administrator at an annual salary of $92,000. In addition, as previously considered by the Council, the Recreation Director's annual salary is $50,000. There are no other changes to the ordinance of 2016-09, and that remains in place.
I need a motion, Mayor?
The motion, please.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Can we roll call?
Councilperson Zaversa?
Once again, I don't know, no one's explained the fiscal responsibility of putting a position from $11,000 to $92,000, so I'm voting no.
E. Park?
I'm going to vote yes, but of course, subject to, I guess, our budget discussions, but yes.
O.
No.
McMorro?
Yes.
M. Park?
Yes.
Wu?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Anne Marie, would you email me those in Word? Okay, thanks.
And with no
Huh?
Okay. So we're at the old business point of our agenda. Andy, you're up with your partner.
If it's okay, just for the camera, I think it's best if I stand there, but they're going to have their,
It's fine,
Should we move that, because we can't see anything?
I can turn it to.
No, I mean,
I
I don't want you to...
I move the camera to sit back.
Well, we could just go sit in the sun rose.
We could go,
Yeah.
no.
Oh,
If we
okay.
wanna- yeah.
We'll come off the dais for a good
Well,
reason.
that would be great.
I've watched the video.
We don't have it.
You guys can see.
Yeah, they can see over there. All right, I'm taking my leave there.
Thank you. Good night.
I got it.
You want Charles first?
I was the attorney, I can't stay in that.
I just...
We don't want the show.
I only have to deal with the final choice.
If I were you, I just, if I'm saying something you can't see, just tell me.
Okay,
I could-
I'll move if I can't see something.
So, good evening, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Andy Hicklin, I'm the borough engineer. To my left is Pat Jamieson of Major Consulting, also at Worktree. We work on this project, so I have him here just in case something comes up that I don't know, I ask him or you need to ask him as part of the project. Tonight's presentation's on William Memorial Field and the possible renovations to the field. A couple of baseline items that I wanted to discuss with people in general. Especially last time, I heard a lot of comments. Synthetic turf is bad. I don't want lights. The gentleman from was questioning specific amenities on the
It's okay,
field.
just come.
I just want to cover for you tonight, the idea of the feasibility study was to look at the feasibility of providing some type of renovations to this field. Sure. So you see, okay, you don't have to, I'll take everything.
If you put it in the middle, it'll, as long as it's in an angle.
When I go specific, I'll move closer to you guys as well.
And this is part of the package, right? It's
Yes,
online.
this is, yes, so just to stop real quick, everything here is in the package that's online. I didn't want to produce anything different, so you want to see a different document, I just blew it up. So the idea of the feasibility study is specifically to look at whether the field needs a renovation. If it needs a renovation, what should the renovation be? And for an athletic field or complex, we do look at use. So the use of the field kind of dictates what the renovation should be and whether there should even be a renovation. If you saw the report, again, the report is online. Everything that's in this report is online. The pictures and boards you see up here tonight are online also, so there's nothing specific. I am okay as I move along. If you have a specific question about what I'm talking about, I have no problem if you raise your hand. I'll ask it and answer it. You can ask it, I'll answer it right away. If it starts to divert away from the presentation, then I might ask you to hold it till later on. But please, I want you to be interactive. We're here to try to determine what should happen or shouldn't happen to the project. So when you look at the report's broken down in a number of sections. The first section talks about the purpose, which is what I summarized. Second sections talk about what's existing on the park. Third sections, and there's multiple sections, talk about possible renovations this year. So the first place I wanted to start, which was just some photos, and inside the document is photos of the field. As you move around, and I can move these closer, as you move around,
Yep, it's fine.
as you move around the park, you'll see what is somewhat of a tired park. You'll see a lot of standing water. You'll see paths that are only in okay condition, a play set that's 20 years old. Fencing's okay, a lot of deterioration even on the field sides. You have obviously standing water puddling in there. And you can see some pictures in the first set of photos where the field itself is in relatively poor condition. When you actually walk onto the field and look at it during either your spring or fall season, which I've done, the surface has seen significant wear. The surface itself is lacking maintenance, but that's not a good either DPW. The field itself is showing what I call overuse. So the field is experiencing overplay, so when your DPW comes out and maintains it every day, once a month, once a year, 4 times a year, they're fighting against wear. My soccer ball area is worn out, my outfield spot, my outfield digs in is worn out, and those areas are not coming back unless you have the ability to shut your field down for an extended period of time. Usual shutdowns for the grass field are before the season starts. I think the baseball players see it now. My son's a baseball player. You should not be playing on your field. If you play on your field now, the grass has just maybe started growing a little bit, especially below the surface. If you get on it between now and the middle of April, you're going to start breaking down the root system, and the grass will deteriorate and not be good all year. The normal shutdown period will probably be until about the end of April. You get on at the end of April, play through May, through June. Once baseball's over and All-Star starts, if you don't have All-Stars in your own field, you would then shut the field down for at least half the summer and open it back up for fall soccer. That's a normal field rotation year. Mark never was here. Mark doesn't have the ability to do that. He doesn't have the ability to shut the field down for a month at a time, 2 or 3 times a year, because of your play. So if we go to the next chart, one of the first things we did other than a survey, was we did a complete laser scan survey of the field. So the data that you'll see on the maps is based on a laser scan. Laser scan means that every 1/8 of an inch square for the entire project within 300 feet of the field is a point. And that point has data, so we have some pretty specific data. Well, the first thing we did was we looked at use. So we contacted the rec department, we contacted baseball, and we were able to get the documented use on the field. Documented use means if there's uses that are not documented, pickup games, a corporate softball game, or somebody that comes out to use the park, those events are not documented. Usually that number is 20% or 30% higher than the average use. I don't know what it is here, nobody put a number on it. When you look at your use, the top part of the chart was soccer and softball for 15 and 16. The bottom part was baseball games. Oddly enough, your softball, this is in hours at the top of the chart, your softball in 2016 played 254 hours. Your soccer played 171 hours in 2016, and those hours were as scheduled by and through the recreation department. Your baseball in 2016, which was consistent with all their years, played 75 games for Little League. Through the 90-foot baseball, very much lower use, only 10 games in 2016, and there was only 7 in 2015 and 14. So your 90-foot baseball had a lot less use. The park itself contains a number of fields. A 90-foot baseball field, a softball field in the back near the basketball courts, contains a Little League baseball field, an overlay rectangular field, which you use for A game, but you use it for super soccer. The park also has the newly renovated tennis courts, which are actually on the CNBC property, but they're leased from CNBC, and a basketball court, which is on this property. And then there's a very attractive building in the backside of the Little League field, which is kind of a multi-purpose building with a somewhat of a snack shack cafeteria kind of situation, some storage space. When we look at back to your use data, when we look at your use data, we find that the number of hours played on your field, specifically towards the grass field, exceeds the recommended requirements. I know that Englewood Cliffs has at least one more field they can use, which is behind the school in Charlotte Place, but that field's in horrendous condition. I looked at it at the end of this year, or end of last year, and it was really just mostly bare. So this field's taking the brunt, if not all, of your scheduling. I didn't get any scheduling from your rec department for that field. I know it's a school field, but I believe it's used. Based on the usage of 254 hours of softball, 171 hours of soccer, and the number of baseball games, a natural grass field will not survive. Doesn't mean, going back to what I said earlier, that you have to put in a synthetic turf field. It just means that you have a couple options. You're either going to change your surface to allow for the use, because any grass you put in is going to look the way it looks now in a few years. It'll last a few years, get worn out, and never go back, because your use is wearing the field out so the grass can't grow. So you'd have to sub the surface out and use a synthetic turf type surface, or add fields somewhere else. I've had communities that have done synthetic turf, or partial synthetic turf. I've had communities who have added fields somewhere else, they've purchased property and built new fields. Englewood Cliffs obviously doesn't have the ability to purchase new property because there's no property purchased that you can build a field on. So the only options you really have are to renovate this field, get some different type of surface or some multiple surfaces on it, or possibly renovate behind your, I guess, your middle school. And it's not your property, so there's not much you can do, but it's an option. When we look at this field in general, go to concept one, or actually not the multiple concept. When we look at this field in general, we broke down the options to 4 options. And the 4 options have multiple options inside of them. I know there was a few questions that were given out to me about the estimates and how they were $4.some million and what can be done and what can't be done. I'll get into the differences and try to give you a comprehensive high number and then give you kind of like a reference item of things you can do as you break down. So when we look at option 1, option 1's pretty much a complete redo. We've moved the soccer field to the middle of the whole complex, surrounded it with the 3 baseball fields in basically the same orientation. The reason the baseball fields stay in the same orientation because it's the best orientation for the park to fit them all. There is some consideration given to east-west orientation, but the park is very constrained by its own limits, which is Johnson, the commercial buildings to your north, east, and the tennis courts and residences to your west. Option 2, we maintained somewhat of the original layout. We took the soccer field, kind of swung it around 20 degrees to the east, and took a little more property from where the basketball court area is just before it, maintained the full baseball field, and overlapped the 90-foot baseball field in the soccer field. Concept number 3, or option 3, We turned the soccer field to go directly across the whole complex to maximize it, increase the use in outbound areas, and even the baseball fields where there are a lot of overlap, so you lose and play those different games. And option 4, we turned it, gave most of the play to the baseball and softball field, less play to the soccer and for baseball. When we look at the options and you break them down, we believe that option number 2 is your best layout. The reason option 2 is your best layout is because it affords you 2 of any game at one time. So I can play a Little League baseball game and a soccer game at the same time. I can play a Little League baseball game and a softball game at the same time. I can play a 90-foot baseball and a Little League baseball game at the same time. So allowed to play 2 events at one time, which is currently what you have now. You really can't maximize, we tried in the 4 layouts to maximize 3 playing events at one time, and it's really something we couldn't get to. It wasn't possible with the property you have. As part of the study, we also looked at some other things, ADA access to your site, we looked at parking for your site. We started to look at amenities and some of the questions that come up on amenities and what the options are for amenities. We realized that your park has 4 ADA access. It has some, but it's 4. We realize the site has really no parking except for Johnson, and we recognize that having parking on site has a lot of value, specifically with a playground that's on site. Moms bringing wheelchairs, handicapped people coming, have a place to have a specific parking spot. And we also looked at Johnson and the value of possibly having a drop-off on Johnson. So if somebody wants to drop off a child for a game, they can get out of the travel light, and if you've been on Johnson, you know, traffic, you know there's a sign that says, whatever it is, it records the speed, and I saw plenty of speeds up around 50 on that street. It allows the car to get off the street, pull over, and let a child out, or an adult out that wants to walk in the park. We believe that the park should maintain its walking path. Your walking path gets a significant amount of use. The walking path is lit with lights that are quite old. They're old PSE&G purchased lights, and PSE&G still offers significant other types of lights that are 20 years newer, and the metal options, and there's a lot of great options. We realize that your playground on site is also outdated and old. It really meets the old playground standards and the old safety standards. We recommend redoing the playground and tiering the playground and have both 0 to 5 and then 5 to 12. 5 is the highest they want to play on it. We believe that the redo of the basketball courts and tennis courts was an excellent redo. It looks great. It gives you a good affordability. It gives you a 10-year life on those courts. And the things should build around that. Probably at some point, you'd look at redoing your batting cages. Your building was in excellent shape. So the building in front is in excellent shape, but there was, and I can see it, there's a size issue. So space is really an issue. Talked about the storage shed, the question came up. There is a pad in the back by the basketball courts that could handle the storage shed. Doesn't have to go there, but the site does warrant a storage shed for things like goals and pads and all kinds of stuff that coaches and field maintenance has. Plus, Mark has a need for other storage, and we believe that possibly behind the parking lot we're proposing, you might want to put a storage segment for items that Mark needs, whether it be a mower, cutter, weed whackers, or other like. We also believe that the park is big enough to warrant comfort stations. Comfort stations means just a covered area. Rain, lightning, wind, people have someplace to go, so we recommend, in addition to the building, 3 other comfort stations around the park for protection. They could also be multiple use. We figured the one in the front could potentially be used for like a bandstand or a concert in the park or an art night or something of the fact that can open up the field and be used for that. When we walk around the park, we see a lot of trees that are monuments. So there's people that dedicate trees for loved ones that are no longer with us. We believe that's a value. So there's a couple of ways to approach that. As the layout changes, they can be moved or relocated and the families can be notified. Or you could create a monument park. We've seen a number of municipalities create more of a monument park when they plant it. The landscape is nice, take care of it, and then create a park. Something that's open to discussion, but I know the trees that have been planted there are pretty personal, so you might want to leave them and work around them. The other amenities, such as dugouts, improvements to Johnson Avenue, are all options, and I think they're good options. I think more current, up-to-date dugouts are warranted. I think there's some great options for that. And when we kind of move off the park to Johnson Avenue is a very big topic. As I said, if you go on Johnson Avenue, parking your car by the sign, you have those radar. Speeds are upwards of 45 miles an hour. I've seen speeds in the 50s. I've sat there for a significant period of time. It needs traffic cones. whether you narrow the road, whether you put bump outs, crosswalks and crosswalks a little closer, whether you put more warning signs up or speed tables, it needs something done. In our report, our traffic department looked at it. We believe that leaving parking on both sides is very good for the road. Having cars parked there, narrow the road down. So the more narrowing the road can be, the better traffic speeds are because it lowers. So a lot can be done. Anything you do here, we believe at Major, our traffic department believes that Johnson Avenue needs traffic calming, needs something to help control speeds in that area. So now, that's the basis of the 4 options. I've talked to you about the option which we think is best because of the number of plays. Now it takes us directly back to the turf fields or grass versus turf fields. Grass fields have a limited amount of play. Most grass fields can handle anywhere from 14 to no more than 30 uses a week. When you start looking at 30 uses a week, our DPW has a hard time keeping the grass. You also need to restrict.
When you say uses, like hours or
No,
games?
again, like a game or practice. A use would be a game or practice. Nominalizing, they say a game or practice is about an hour.
And how many uses a week?
14 would be great, 30 would be on the high end of all the events. And because you have a multiple use field, you're going to get a lot of uses, and there's a lot of overlap, so that overlap creates issues too. So if I scheduled, let's say 30 uses on 2 fields at one time, that's 60 uses a week, it's going to start really taking a toll, specifically where the turfs cross or there's cross play. It's going to become a real problem. One of the things we see on your current field is specifically where the soccer overlaps your softball area. Softball's a big use. I never thought it was such a big use. But that area where they overlap is worn out. The area when you come on the field where soccer starts is worn out. Those areas are worn out. They're worn out so much they can't even grow back. So Mark would have to the DPW or Mark would have to shut the field down, shut it down for at least 60 days, either resod it or reseed it and leave it closed for play to get that grass back. It's never coming back. What happens is weeds take it over. So weeds take it over, which is what you have a lot of. You have a lot of ability to use your field. So they take it over, and weeds have no durability. They just wear out when you play on them. They turn brown very quickly late in the year, like late in August, early September. Weeds, I don't think weeds are a good option for play. They provide a very poor level of play. And as your fields wear, so as your wear areas wear, we saw in some of the photos, the field starts to retain water because now I start compacting my soil. So as I compact my soil, it can't get to the drains, I start holding water. So I have areas on the Little League baseball field, areas in the soccer field, areas by the softball field that hold water because the soil is now compacted. So the soil can't be uncompacted. Compacted soil also has a higher Gmax rating or fall ratio rating, so when my head or shoulders hit, the ground is harder. And there are areas that we believe should be repaired or maintained safely. So what we have to do is we have to break the field down into areas for rehabilitation. The outside areas, the path, the parking lot, the street, the comfort stations, the storage will all take place outside the path. So the path that surrounds it may have some modification take place outside the path. The playground would be inside the path, so there's some separation between the playground and the outside areas. And then the field itself would have 2 distinct areas, somewhat like it has today. In the southwest corner, we've maintained the Little League field where it is. The purpose of that is the building backs up to it. There's a window that opens up, and it kind of provides a good back shield for the Little League field. The Little League field has dugouts that were built in. Those dugouts are in good shape. They need some paint, they need some rehab, but they're very nice dugouts. And the Little League field has its own fence and a brand new scoreboard. The remainder of the complex, we propose on expanding it a little bit, expanding it to the east on the corporate side, moving the soccer field to be oriented a little more north to south, which is the desired orientation, and then really overlapping the 90-foot baseball field with the soccer field because the 90-foot baseball field only has 10 uses per year, so it's your lowest use. We don't think you should eliminate it because you have games there, but we think you should get a lot more advantage to a bigger soccer field while maintaining a full overlapping field for softball. Now, softball itself does not have to be played on grass or clay. It can be played on turf, it can be played on clay, it can be played on a grass outfield, but softball can meet regulations, either a clay infield or a synthetic turf infield. If it's grass, it does not meet the standard you need to play, specifically if you start getting the high school games. So on the soccer, softball, 90-foot baseball field, because it's all multi-use and all your plays are converging in one area, we believe for surfacing, because of use, the only way to maintain this area is to have this entire area in synthetic turf material. That would be the minimum. You couldn't do anything else there, because if you put grass there, it's just you're going to have what you see today 2 years from today. Once it's done, it's just going to come back again. And you'll end up resigning the field every year and losing games to shut down for both spring, midsummer, and late fall because the grass is not being maintained in the doctor. The Little League field, and I know Little League has spoken about synthetic turf, but the Little League field, because the number of plays, could be grass. A well-maintained Little League field with the right play, and your plays are 75 a year, which is not too bad for the year, could be maintained grass. If the Little League field was the only grass on site and the rest of the games were played here, Little League would have a great grass complex. If they had a rain out, you could move to the softball field, because the softball field also meets Little League standards. So Little League would have an option to play on both a synthetic turf field in bad weather, in practice, and the grass field when the season's at its highest. I know from being a baseball coach, and my son's 10 years old, listen, a baseball player in grass, there's nothing better than going to Yankee Stadium and walking on the field going, this is great. But Englewood Cliffs can't limit their baseball field to 7 games a week with no practices. That's why Yankee Stadium looks as good as it does.
Andy, is it possible to make the big boy field adjustable to a 50, 70, 60, 90?
Good question. You beat me to it. And I'll jump right there. On all projects that we do that involve synthetic turf to have a 90-foot baseball field, you make it adjustable for 3 levels of play. Softball, 50, 70, and 60, 90. You pick, and 60, 90 is probably your premier base, so you mark all 3 bases with dots. The mound's movable, and all locations are movable, and the mound you'll put there is a portable mound, but it's, when I say it's portable, it takes a little effort to move it. It's 14 feet in diameter, and it breaks down 8 pieces. The center is clay, the pitchers want to pitch on the clay, and when you want to move it, they have a little device in the back, you open it up, pick it up, it rolls back to a new spot that's marked, and you put it back down again. When you're playing soccer or some other rectangular field game, like lacrosse, you would slide it off the field into an area that's out of the way. Softball does not have a mound. Little League baseball, that's 10 years and younger, does not have to have a mound. But the same thing can happen here. You can have a pro mound here, it can be pulled out and pulled back in. Both mounds, the same mound here could be used there. The portable mound I'm discussing probably runs about $15,000, but it lasts forever. It's not like the portable ones you may see at fields you go to that are somewhat small, less than 6 feet in diameter, and somewhat angled a pitch that doesn't meet regulation. You don't really want those, but towns do use them. The versatility of, at a minimum, partial synthetic turf on this side, grass on here, the versatility exists for both Little League baseball, soccer, softball, 90-foot baseball. Obviously, if you wanted to put synthetic turf in the Little League field, you could. I think there is one hurdle to it, and you need to understand that Little League itself, if you are a 10-year-old all-star or higher for Little League, 10, 11, and 12, and you make districts and you're supposed to be the host team, Little League has a preference in their rules that says we prefer games to be played on natural grass. Little League so far, and Little League's a big organization worldwide, has not allowed a Little League district game higher on that synthetic turf. So we try to. No, Little League's a pretty big group. I mean, obviously it's worldwide, and Little League makes a regulation. They have a section in their bylaws that talks about the preference of natural grass. When you go to Williamsport, it's all natural grass, and right now I'll call them the men of Little League, even though it's not an actual rule, have always deferred to the team that has natural grass to have the district team.
And
So,
they don't refer to why? It's not because they're concerned about the costing?
no, I believe,
Turf?
no, I don't think it's anything like that. I believe that Little League is a very traditional type sport, and the traditionalists that run Little League see their game on grass. I get that. I think, well, my son played the game, I played the game. And I think that's it. The issue of turf, contaminated, not contaminated, We can talk about that, but nowhere in Little League, this rule's been in Little League's language for a long time.
I think in a Little League, or in a synthetic turf field, the ball will move faster.
No.
No?
It moves actually, so if you play baseball on a synthetic turf field, synthetic turf is not the turf that looks like this floor, which is very hard. The G-max rating of a synthetic turf field, it mimics a natural grass field. So natural grass falls between 85 to 120 G-max. G-max being if I was about this far from the ground and I fell on my head, that's how hard the impact would be on my shoulders or head. Same thing for the ball. So when the ball hits, it's going to have the same impact as this natural grass. The old synthetic turf fields that you saw in Giant Stadium, the original Tampa Bay Devil Rays Stadium, was just like this. It was built on concrete. So the ball hit it, rocketed off it, and they said, we got to get rid of this. People are going to start getting hurt. It's not like that anymore, so you get a very natural feel to it. Your complex does have the ability to have a natural grass field that could be used for district games, and a synthetic turf field that could be used for games for kind of other practices now in the whole building.
In the area beyond left field on the Little League field, yes. What do you propose that turf? Is that grass or is that an extension of artificial turf?
So that area has overlap. So if you look at the arc, this arc is the recommended arc for 90-foot baseball.
90-foot baseball.
What's that?
Senior baseball.
Yeah. Your Babe Ruth. You have 10 of those.
Adult softball also uses that field, so we're getting those numbers that softball, they may be actually being played on the other field, because all the adult softball is played on the 90-foot skin field.
So the numbers we got were just for Woody Field. So the numbers that the rec gave us were for Woody Field.
But it's played on the skin field, not on the
It could be,
small
it's played at this complex, it's scheduled at this complex. So the idea of the numbers were events scheduled at this complex and this complex only. Going back to your question, this arc right here is the arc for the 90-foot baseball field. So if you were to put turf over here, we'd recommend that if you were going to hold an area with grass, you keep it outside that arc to keep the surface consistent.
Is there,
I think you had a question.
So the 57 is to be played on the 60-90 field. Could it also be played on the softball field?
You're not going to have the outfield distance of left field, but
That's like 240 feet, isn't it?
it's, yeah, you're a little short. You could play it there.
Right.
It's definitely a possibility. I wouldn't say no. I mean, if that was the desire that the town has, this outfield fence would be made higher with a line for the Little League on the other side, so you could do that.
And the Little League field fence, is that the existing perimeter of the fence?
Yes.
Okay, because there may be an issue with our depth of our fence, and with hosting all-star games. You know, it's good for us in town, but I think we may be a little short, I'm not sure.
You have the room to make that, we have room to move that fence, so there's room. This soccer field is a full-size soccer field, so there's room to make that field.
And the distance on the softball field, is that similar to it, or exactly half?
It's similar.
A couple questions, Andy. Relative to materials, you have the rubber and you have the cork. Is there a lot of choices in between that? Also on the cork, do you have any additional, I read in the report it's $3 more per square foot. Is there anything, different choices for cork that would be more economical?
So
And then the second part of my question is, underneath the turf, presumably there's some kind of underlayment?
Yes.
What type of quality are we talking about in the quote? The G-Max obviously would be affected by the underlayment that's there. Would we be getting those quotes? I didn't see any information on that.
So I'll split it in two questions. Question one, as far as the infill for synthetic turf field. The synthetic turf industry, and they stand by it strong, it's not in the hip of it, is rubber infill, which is basically ground up car tires and ground up sneakers. The other alternative now, there's some other alternatives. Cork is probably the biggest alternative. It's cork mixed with sand. It's more expensive. Now, obviously, the more that you put in, anything, the more you put in, the cheaper it is. We've had clients who have used both. majority, probably 85, 90% use rubber infill, cryogenic rubber infill, so it's frozen and broken. A few use ambient rubber, but ambient rubber is pretty much gone out the window, which is that you just slice it up and put it in the field. And a number of clients are now starting to use the cork infill. The options are there.
How long has cork been used?
It's really not a few years. Since there's been, it's kind of a, as you saw in the papers, a big panic of rubber tires. And every time a panic comes out, another state, another country, another town investigates it, and it just keeps chugging along and chugging along. So, again, most clients, towns, states, and professionals for stadiums use the rubber infill. The cork's been around for a few years. There are people using it now. The big benefit of cork, probably the biggest benefit, is it's a little bit cooler, but we're in New Jersey, so New Jersey is not similar to the southern states. In New Jersey, the heat doesn't get that bad. August is probably your worst month for the heat in the field. It's not that bad. You can water the field, you cool it down.
So the 60-90 field, we kind of resurrected it in the fall. We had our first team play in probably 6-7 years. So the plan over there is to play a Babe Ruth division, 13-14, and then the following year to compete in districts.
13 in 50-70?
No, 60-90.
Okay.
So they're already playing 60-90, half the group. We just won't have a district team this year, but the next year when you can play juniors, which is 14 and 13, will that field be eligible to host games based on?
Yes, I don't know if they made a Little League World Series or Babe Ruth World Series district game. I think the same rules may apply, but I'm not as familiar with the Babe Ruth rules as I am with the Little League rules.
Andy, is that actually meaning you want to draw out the soccer field on turf, like have it painted like that, pre-painted for year round? And I'm asking because we don't play the full soccer field eventually. We only have 2 games.
You have this like 99, 77 games?
They're live. I mean, they're not real. They're kind of like this on each other.
Right. So what we're I can tell you, I can tell you what we're seeing, I think, push in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
A lot of clients, because 99, 77 are becoming significant, 99 and 977 being 707, we take the outline of the field and either do a solid yellow line or a dashed yellow line, so it can always be laid out. Some of the goal boxes will put dots at, so they know where they are, and then you can paint turf with latex paint. They use like a 50-50 or 60-40 latex and water solution, and it pretty much washes it off in a few months. And then we actually inlay line the smaller fields. So we inlay line in a different color. It can be yellow, it can be white, it can be maroon, you pick the color. And we inlay line in a 99 field for you and a 77 field across, so then they can be used for the smaller levels of play. What we're finding out from the U.S. Soccer Federation is they have a huge push for small-sided soccer fields. They call it high-touch games. They want touch, touch, touch. They don't want kids. They don't want me standing over here going, hey, I'm over here, and the ball never comes up. I stand over here, and he's over there playing the whole time because the ball never got out of that corner. It's kind of like the old Magnet football game, you see, where everybody follows the ball. They don't want that anymore. So they want a high touch. That's a detail similar to what I told this gentleman here. Those details need to work out once we mayor and council decide what they want to go forward. Is really what happens.
When you consider the grass fields, did you consider anything other than the natural soil for grass? Did you consider any kind of modified grass fields?
So there is a middle option. The middle option is there's a number of manufacturers who make a sod-type field and they weave in synthetic turf.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about adding sand or to the mix so that you have it's essentially a grass field, not adding synthetic turf to it.
Any sod field we do would be sod that comes off of a sand-based sod to promote drainage.
Right.
So I'm not necessarily sure your question.
I can answer. So we've typically taken soil tests when we're going to do a sod field, and we amend the soil with a certain amount of sand content, so that it meets like the kind of optimal conditions.
In terms of compaction,
It helps drainage, it helps, So we've typically done that on every natural field. We take soil tests to do.
Do you know if the field that's there now was put down that way, and how old is that field that's there now?
Yeah, so I don't want to be. So the original field, I did.
How long ago?
About 20 years ago. So the field, what had happened with that field was, the history is the borough council at that time set out, they wanted to redo the whole complex. We went through the whole entire process at that point, everything from the plastic lights, all the way through everything. In the middle of the job, the contractor went under. If you remember, the field was shut down, probably sat dormant for half a year. It was a disaster. It was lawsuit, bonding companies. We had more meetings in this room over that field. It was crazy. Eventually, the bonding company came in, and the bonding company at the time brought a different contractor in, called Dakota Contracting, and they finished the job. It was done with a sand-based sod, a sand-based mixture, and it was like a 60-40 sand to silt clay mixture. And it has compacted over time, so over time it's kind of compacted until then. So that's what normally happens.
But it's lasted for 20 years.
Yeah, I think it was redone. It was redone at some point. Mark, you know it was redone? Yeah, I think it was resodded at some point. I can tell you that. I haven't followed it over the last 10 years, but.
What's the expected lifespan of the artificial turf?
The older artificial turf, which is no longer used anymore, is about 10 years. The newer turf is 15 to 20.
And that's, well, how do they know it's going to be 15 to 20 if it's not new?
Well, I can tell you by what's installed around you. So if you look at fields installed around you, there are fields installed around you that haven't been replaced and they're still in for 20 years. And that's the older turf. This new stuff was improved. They took the data from the old turf, improved the fiber. The fiber used to be a very lazy fiber, monofilament fiber. They've now a polyethylene fiber, but they've now changed it to a monofilament fiber and added different structure to it. So if you look down in the magnifying glass, the actual geometry of it's different now. They've had it, there's places it's been.
It's not polyethylene?
No, the polyethylene's gone now. It's now a monofilament, like a fishing line.
Well, what is it? What's the composition?
I'm not necessarily a term expert, but it's the same, it's literally what fishing lines made out, whatever that's going to be.
And is there, in consideration with the new track, would it be an asphalt product, or is it like a track that they can put on high schools?
So, it's going to have an asphalt base either way.
Right.
Whether you color code it or use a track surface as if you see on your high school fields, it's not symmetrical like a high school track, but you could put the rubberized surface on it and then coat it for better walking and put some main lines on it.
Is that in the estimate?
It's not in the estimate. That's going to, to rubberize coat this the same way we do a high school track is going to raise your cost a couple $100,000.
Because, obviously, our elder citizens use the track a lot.
It's great. It's a great point.
I had asked Andy for a 400 meters to say track with a steeplechase tip, but he said no. But that would be good. It's easier to walk on.
We have a lot of universities that we do work for that take their walking paths around their athletic complexes and use that material. It's a little over like an inch and a quarter thick, made of crushed rubber tires. We don't like it. There's a urethane blend in with it, and that blend is laid down with the paver and then painted over with the polymer.
But I've been seeing that they don't peel apart. They're very solid. Over the years it does.
Yeah, it's like any else, they're barrels. And the more you get, you're not going to get used to it.
It's not like the little black rollers from the...
Oh, it's the same stuff.
But it's not...
Right, it's bound to urethane. It's bound to be glued together.
But what I'm saying is it's not loose.
No, it's not.
No, it's not.
Right.
By the way, the LG building that's going up is going to have a rubberized walking track, according to them, their presentation originally was going to be open to the public.
That's great. That's even better for us, right?
I will share with you my personal experience with Foley High School. They put on the synthetic cut and the track field. When I walking over there at night, very hot summer day, the heat is continually coming up. That my feeling is very bad. Our synthetic field is different with the Foley High School track. What do you think of it? That is very bad. Especially some hot.
So is the Fort Lee High School field synthetic turf?
I don't know what is that. Just on the track.
Yeah, track. So
yeah, that's a very
any track tracks an asphalt surface with a rubberized surface over. So an asphalt surface on a hot day is going to be hot. A synthetic turf field on a hot day is going to be hot. it's a synthetic surface. The way, the way schools, universities, and towns fight that is, if you knew you were going to have a soccer game in August at 12 o'clock time evening, you wet the field. You actually wet it. The water and the evaporation lowers the temperature 10 to 15 degrees. If you use cork, the heat is significantly less, if not normal to dress. I need to ask that question. Okay, I'm going to move on and talk a little bit about the estimates. I know that there's probably some questions.
Are you gonna talk about lights, or is that gonna be a separate time?
You know what, I can do that now, so you can do it for yes. No, that's okay, I'll tell lights. So one of the things we provided in our estimates was lighting for the complex. Lighting being sports lighting, your complex does not have sports lighting. If the complex remains natural grass, you could light it. You could light it to use the natural grass, spread out the play. So you can spread out play and not have it all happen back to back to back to back. So it can be used as a buffer to kind of move down your use hours, but you're still going to have use hours in that day. So if you had a bunch of games on a Saturday afternoon, you could shut the field down for 4 or 5 hours, have DPW be out there if you have the personnel, try to do some quick maintenance, and then turn the lights on and get back on the field again. If you have synthetic turf, the lights allow you to increase your play time and spread your play time out. So instead of having to pack in practices at 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock on any day, or pack them in right now, this time of year from 4 to 6, because it starts by 6 o'clock, you could actually start practices a little later and have the lights on until a certain time. With synthetic turf field, it costs more money than grass. Obviously, we would recommend lights to allow your play to be friendly to both your coaches, your kids, your school times, so you can spread out play so it's played at the right time. You're not forcing kids out of school early or forcing them to play in the dark when they shouldn't be playing in the dark. Lights give you versatility. Lights give you the ability to have a rain out and then play more games the next day. If you put lights on your grass field, again, it gives DPW time to maintain it, but I'm not sure you can go to the personnel to maintain it. It's a different issue. So we would recommend, if you use lights, we just give these lights in East Hanover Middle School. Because there is surrounding residents on 2 sides, which would be your west side and your south side, we recommend using LED lights. There's a number of different light manufacturers out there. A number of them are now moving to LED lights. LED lights have a direct cutoff. The lights are flat, more like the parking lot lights you see, not the big round lights you see in Yankee Stadium or Shea Stadium. And they can actually be aimed, and the cutoff is almost instantaneous. So if I was trying to have a cutoff right at that wall, I could cut it off instantly, and on the outside, it'd be pitch black. You couldn't even get a reading on a light. That's how good they are. We put these lights in at East Hanover Middle School. You can go see it. You don't need any HIPPO to go. It's public property. They're going to start their games up probably in about 30 days. I recommend you go take a look at it. The cutoff on those lights is unbelievable. As far as times of lights, because that's important.
I'm so sorry. Can you point on this picture where you were recommending to put the lights?
We didn't design it yet, but I can tell you where I can tell you where lights go. So for a baseball field, lights go between first and third and home. They hit the corner outfields of the baseball field. So it means they hit this corner of this baseball field, and you have a double to this field. You could probably put 1 here and have a double to this field. You have 2 here, so I have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, so I have a couple. It's going to be somewhere between 9 to 11 light poles.
That's including lighting the tennis courts and the basketball courts?
No. You could light them.
Right.
So you're going to have poles back here, you're going to have poles here, so you could light those courts for practice. And you're going to have lights here, so you could light the tennis courts.
What kind of, the tennis courts had poles for lights.
I never saw that. Oh, no. So the tennis courts, way back when the tennis courts, when that property was released.
Way back, right.
Right, I was here when it happened. When that property was released from CNBC,
Right.
there was parking lot lights there.
Oh, that's what.
And they were just the parking lot lights.
Oh.
Yeah, we put the courts in the area where the parking lot lights could hypothetically be used to light the courts, even though it's not an actual sports light.
Okay. But they've never been turned on since.
They really don't provide adequate sports lighting. They actually, when you're hitting the ball, you're not getting the directional lighting on it. So you could use it, but I don't recommend it.
I have a question. So in your, I guess, the estimates, there's a line number 38 is for all the sports field lighting.
Yeah.
So let's just say, the actual numbers change depending,
does.
yeah, depending on the, I guess, the concept.
The layout, because
The
the number
layout.
of poles change.
Okay. That number though, let's say it's 1,200,000, what is that just equipment or
It's fully installed.
fully installed? And
Fully
then-
installed with an operational system that's computerized, so your DPW recreation director can turn the lights on and off from your smartphone or wherever you want to be able to do that. Your police can have access to them. It's the top system. That, we gave you the Cadillac LED system. If you wanted something lesser, the price could come down significantly, come down to $500,000.
So I think we had discussion, maybe a couple of meetings back, and we were talking about lights maybe being around like 300,000 or 400,000 was
Per field.
per field.
Per field.
Okay.
You technically have 4 fields here, so
Okay.
4 times 3 is 12, so what 1.2 million is about. The number is a concept estimate.
Mhm.
Again, I'm going to have, depending on the concept that we talk about that you want to pick, if you use this concept, I'm going to get a light sharing of 1 pole here, so I'm going to be able to lose a pole just because I can share a pole here. If I'm talking about lighting the basketball courts, I have a pole over here that can be used for that. I have 1 or 2 poles here, I'm going to share a pole here and then here, so I might be able to lose a pole doing that concept.
Okay.
Depending on what you actually want to light and how you, there's game lighting, there's practice lighting, and there's just recreation lighting.
Right.
So that depending on the level of lighting, is going to depend on the number of poles also.
But this estimate is for
We
everything.
gave you the top of this. We gave you all game lighting for the whole complex.
Okay, what type of heights of the poles are we talking about, and are they the same heights for the Little League as opposed to the other parts of the field?
In a complex of this nature, lighting becomes more difficult because we have a 60-90 baseball field. On a 60-90 baseball field, if we use the traditional 60-foot pole height that Little League requires in softball, every kid on that team has the ability to hit the ball way higher than 60 feet. So I'm an outfielder, ball's hit, it goes up, I wait, and then it comes down and I chase the ball coming out of the lights. It's an issue. So for a 90-foot baseball field, you really want 90-foot high lights. Now, do you have to have them? You don't. It's really your decision. I don't know if you're going to have 10 events on the 90-foot baseball field, I would tell you to play them in the daytime. I wouldn't waste the cost to increase the 90-foot height.
So you're also suggesting that, we're not gonna light if it was approved, you're not gonna light the entire field,
You
just
don't have to.
one sections of different.
Right, so the estimate you have here, which I think your question was a very wise question, is to light everything.
Okay.
It's the Cadillac lighting the entire complex. I will tell you that when you light an entire complex like this, a similar complex to this would be Lodi Kennedy Field. They have a softball field, a 90-foot baseball field, an overlapping soccer, lacrosse, and men's 99-77 field. And they have a track that's actually inlaid line in the turf. So residents go down there at night and can walk around. So what we did was, the lighting is so high-tech that the recreation director goes, okay, all I have is people walking tonight, and all it's lit is the walking track. So only the poles that light the lights that come on light the walking track. Next night's a soccer game, only the soccer fields lit, the baseball fields are not lit. Next night's only soccer, only the soccer field is lit. And in the same day, the recreation director, DPW, police can adjust it. So if I have a softball game, I turn that on, I shut it off, turn the soccer field on, shut that off, turn on the 90-foot baseball field, shut that off, turn on the walking path. So you'll never have to have all the lights on at one time. The old system of lighting, which you saw when I was a kid, you turned one switch on, it lit it up like the Garden State Parkway rest area, and you shut it off and you're done. You don't have to do that anymore. I would recommend having the higher level system with the computers that allow you to do that. Anything else before I go to estimates? So, on the estimates, and I think you kind of stole my thunder, but it's okay. I gave you a number of estimates based on synthetic turf, grass, and they all have concepts. So they'll say concept 1, synthetic turf. They'll say concept 1, all natural grass. I could have given you 40 pages of estimates. Because when you do an athletic complex of this nature, it's very similar to going to a fancy restaurant. When you get that really nice book, like me, I sit there with my wife and I go, oh no, it's the big book with all the stuff. And she's got 42 pages to look through of everything from appetizers to wine lists. This is the same thing. When I get on this list, At some point, if mayor and council decides to go ahead with a renovation, we're gonna start developing a menu of what you can and can't do and what it costs you. There are certain things you have to do with certain things. For instance, if you're gonna do a synthetic turf field on this inside, we gotta do all the synthetic turf at one time. We don't piecemeal it. If we're gonna do grass here, it's gotta be grass. And the fencing around those areas has to be done to match the field you do. If you're gonna put lights up and you only want to light one part, you could just light one part and add lights later on. You could stage your lighting. That's possible. If you're gonna do your walking path now, which is asphalt, and you wanna change it to rubberized surface, that could come in time. So you can actually phase the project or do it all as one. And we'll tell you, that in our opinion, when you bond for a project and do it as one large project, your prices usually come in significantly better because you're buying lots of quantity. Lots of quantity leads to better pricing. Small amounts of quantity lead to higher pricing. So you have to balance that also. We can show you specific examples of where that's happened and how it's affected projects. But you have a project that's probably going to run you, depending on what you pick, somewhere between a low of 1.8 million to obviously see a high of 4 million. Could you be less than 1.8 million? You could. You could do a very bare bones renovation, cut your losses, say, hey, we just want to resod it. We don't really want to do much more. We know we're going to resod it every year and spend, $100,000 a year resodding it, fixing the drainage, and you could do that. That is actually an option, but that's an option that we have to take. Anybody have any questions on the numbers and estimates?
This is based off a straight square
You
foot.
No, you go first.
This is based on a straight per square foot price?
Yes. Well, some of these units, if I've got 5 benches, I have 1 bench or 10 benches, so some are units, some are square foot. If you look on the estimate, I have square foot, lump sum, unit cost, linear foot cost.
What page are you on?
And the estimates, it's in the appendix. It's in appendix E. In appendix E, second page in appendix E. If you look at the second page in appendix E, it talks about the unit cost and how we break them down.
Is this something that goes out to bid?
Yes. It'll be publicly bid.
Is there a price per, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I thought there was a price per pole.
No, no.
Your
Sorry.
estimate is for what type of turf?
It's a generic estimate. Synthetic turf, so synthetic turf,
Is it organic or is it that crumbled tires?
so the turf price we have here,
Well, you can say where the $10 comes from, maybe with the oil, everything that goes into underneath.
synthetic turf, yeah, we have, so the synthetic turf price we gave you is for $10 a square foot, so we use the higher price turf. If you decide to use the rubber tire turf, it's going to come down about $3 a square
So
foot.
this is the organic turf?
This is the organic turf.
How long does it do the entire complex if you were to do a plan out from the Washington? I mean, from the field, the lighting, how long would it be to, would we be missing a season if you,
So let me explain the difference between grass and synthetic turf. If I was to renovate a grass field, it's got to be shut down for 2 growing seasons. 2 growing seasons mean spring or fall or spring. So if I start in the spring, you're not going to play in the spring. You're not going to play in the fall. You're going to play in the following spring. So it's 2 growing seasons. If I do synthetic turf, the synthetic turf field of this size, even if it was the whole complex, about 60 days. There was definitely no question about that. Can I cut somebody else?
So what about the Little League field? What would you saying that would remain grass, so you
Yeah.
have to shut down a Little League
2
field?
seasons. So they'd have to play, if the Little League field stayed grass, they'd have to play their games for one of their seasons on the synthetic turf.
What if we just wanted to replace the infield grass? The outfield grass it's not bad.
You could do that.
I'm just.
So I can give you another option, which may hurt your district games, but we did a project in the borough of New Providence, Hillview Field. You can look online, so I know on Google Photos now, it now shows it. We won an award for Hillview Field. They, very similar meeting to this. The only difference was there's about 500 people at that meeting. So it was a little more of an aggressive meeting I went to. And the residents didn't want synthetic turf. But the town couldn't keep up with the maintenance of the field. Too many games. 2 Little League fields, back to back, or home plates away from each other, and then a soccer field in the middle. The field was wearing out, couldn't keep up with it. They went for a hybrid, which is acceptable in the industry, which is a synthetic turf infield, fully lined, catching all the drainage on both fields with a grass outfield in the center. So they play their soccer games on a grass outfield. Soccer is only for the low ranges, so it doesn't beat the turf up as much. The infield is synthetic turf, so they use the infield for both soccer play practice during wet weather events. They use it for Little League practice and Little League games. So it really worked great for them. They won an award because they balanced their costs. They did this complex using about $300,000 of capital funds versus, in their case, using about $1.2 million.
Meet the Little League requirements?
That field is 10 and under, so it's not, the 10 is where the league probably starts, and New Providence has other grass, has full-blown grass Little League fields that have lights on it.
Do you design fields that, say, the infield cutout is grass, but the dirt itself is clay? I mean, is that an option, or is that?
You understand? In the infield?
So just the base paths would be turf, and the inset
with grass
around the pitcher's mound would be grass.
I've never done that. I'm not sure I'd recommend that. You're changing surfaces too fast for play.
Yeah. That's not really recommended.
No, I would not recommend it.
No, but I'm talking about the sliding area,
Oh, I've had synthetic turf fields where your sliding areas are clay.
Yeah, cut that out.
And your whole playing pitches are clay. I've had those. What happens is we had that situation in the Borough of Montvale, Fieldstone School, I don't know if you played there. Older synthetic turf field went in started in 98, they actually started construction in 2001, finished 2003. They have 2 full-size soccer fields back-to-back, so it's gigantic, it's 4 acres. They have a 90-foot baseball field and a 60-foot softball loaded field, and all the cutouts were clay. Huge maintenance problem. Their DPW couldn't keep up with it. The clay runs off onto the turf. It needs to be pulled back. Ultimately, what happens is, and as I said, I'm a coach, so I'm respectful of coaches, but I do it myself. Hey, I gave sorry, more get it in. I know it's wet, and the turf field's fine. The clay's a little wet, so what do? You put more clay on it. So speedy drive, put more clay on it, push it off this side. Next thing you know, your clay and your synthetic turf's mixing. I'm getting clay that's binding up the synthetic turf, bringing the Gmax up to 200. 200 is frozen ground. That you don't want that, so I don't. There's people who use it, but unless you can maintain it, I don't recommend it.
How are we maintaining the grass now? Like, what is it that we're doing, or what is it that we're not doing that we should be doing?
So what I said last meeting, and it may not be the right number, we're being told from Recreation that that's about $7,000 a year for maintenance. I don't know, Mark, if that's right. Okay, so $7,000 a year for maintenance. So I can tell you that for a field this size, your budget should be about $75,000 a year. That includes that includes 5 treatments of fertilizers, weed kills, the 1 treatment of pesticides in August, which is never a popular thing for the grubs and that stuff, and then resodding, reseeding, shutting the field down. It includes all that, aerating.
And how much of an improvement, if we spent that money, would be from now, the current state, as opposed to?
It would be significant if you first resodded it and you cut your clay in half.
And the original proposal that we had with the old rec committee was to, because the problems, as you probably know, were the outfields were okay, playability-wise, but the infields were always a disaster. So the proposal or the recommendation of that group of coaches and a Little League board at the time, which was about maybe 2.5 years ago, maybe a little bit, was to, everywhere there was clay, to make that turf. And everywhere else, redo the drainage system and maintain natural grass, just to kind of keep that compatibility or that somewhat natural, purest aspect of the field, but still get the playability that we need for the Little League.
Great.
And for softball too.
I think it's a great option for you. I would
That's
not.
feasible, though, right?
Yeah, I would not. But in your infields, I would do the whole infield in turf.
Correct.
Do the whole outfield in grass.
Correct, the whole thing. Yeah.
And then what I would tell you is that you're going to get some benefit from the drainage portion of it. You're going to have your lines inlaid, so you don't have to
You don't have to worry about those.
No more lines go. And it does provide a decent option for you. The only place it becomes a problem for you is with your soccer field. I can't have a turf infield for the softball that overlaps onto a grass field for the soccer. So you have to shrink the soccer field. You can do that. That's an option. And go with small side games and just get the soccer field out of the softball field. With the 90-foot baseball, it really hampers you a lot. But We can look at, I mean, that's a layout, you can look at,
Yeah,
look at it, that's an option. Okay.
And to get back to my first question about changing the size, I don't know, is it possible you can do away with the little softball field, because the big boy field, 11 games, 10 games, if you add those little amount of games out with the softball, can it all be done on that one, and then maybe you could just save some monies or whatnot, not putting in the softball field, or because you can't play the big boy field and the softball at the same time anyway.
Let me try to break this down a little bit. So, on your use that I currently have, the answer is yes. I don't need this softball field down here if the field up here is multiple use softball, 50, 70, 60, 90. But what I heard in the back of the room was if you're starting up a Babe Ruth league, that could pose a problem long term. You could build the complex to allow for this, but not build it in and add it in later on. But if you start throwing in 75 Babe Ruth games a year with 254 outings or hours of softball, you'll have a problem. You have to meet it.
It's not, wouldn't be close to that.
Okay, so the answer is yes.
But the only, just Anthony, 1 second, the problem is that right now, girls softball is truly not utilizing that, and we're trying to find ways.
Where do they play now?
Well, they're playing in Fort Lee, but we.
We don't have those games recorded.
No, you don't have them recorded here, but they have like 1 or 2 games that they came, we met with one of the coaches this morning.
And also, Carl, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to suggest that we're
No,
not
I
doing,
just wanted to, no.
not for the girls.
What I was
not
saying,
all.
what I was saying is that what we ran into last year was, because we have so many adults playing softball, and that's a great thing, there were some conflicts with people that wanted the field, because you can only play, when the softball and the Babe Ruth, or whatever you want, they can't play at the same time. See how they overlap? They can't. So,
You can't.
they can't.
But I will tell you that in the synthetic turf industry, synthetic turf's not cheap. As you see, if we use the more environmentally friendly turf, it's $10 a square foot. Grass is $3 a square foot. So it's a huge, huge difference. So we tell people, the more you can consolidate your uses in one area, tighten it up, the less turf you have, the more efficient and more cost-effective it is. So going back to your question, if we can do that based on use, it's a great
So
option.
what I'm also suggesting is, like, if you took the Little Field and the Big Boy Field and you made, directly, across from each other, and now you take the soccer field and you square it up to now you have less
You're
coverage.
taking your fence out.
But you have less coverage of.
No, I'm just saying, if I have to take, you're not gonna have a little outfield fence, but it's not,
Exactly.
they're temporary ones.
No doubt about it. But then you have less turf, less coverage, less cost.
You're right. Yeah, if you tell me as a community that, Andy, we only need really 2 fields, multi-use 90-foot baseball for 90-foot, 60-foot, 50, 70, and this field, we can knock off 20% of the turf. 20% is a big number.
And leave the soccer field grass.
You know, it would all be turf, and the whole thing would be turf. There'd be no grass.
I just wanted.
Because you're consolidating and upping use in the smaller area.
Smaller.
Yeah, so someone else wondered, was there ever where they played soccer behind the school? And we use those as just baseball? I mean, is that at all part of this, where we look at that field? Because if you can play soccer there and keep these 2 baseball fields, you're saving a hell of a lot of money.
Well, it's school
That was
property.
used. That was used when the field was being redone. Upper school became the soccer field back in 2000-something.
If I can respond. Back when, my youngest is 24 now, but they utilized back by upper school, for Little League, for all practices.
Can't imagine that.
We're back there. Those fields were in really good condition back in the day, back then, when he played anyway. We are gonna be meeting with, the superintendent, I'm not sure that, well, yeah, with the principal and with Frank Patty, to see if we can't have some sort of
Sherry?
some ideas to complement each other. We don't know where that is, but it's a great field back there. That's the first.
Great field is in horrible condition, right?
It's in horrible condition, so we are meeting, and so everybody knows that everything's being looked at. The other thing is, back in 2010, I met with Boswell at this field, and we did a full study on what would it cost for natural grass. And the number then was between $80,000 and $100,000.
Right, that makes sense.
The DPW, and no disrespect to Mark at all, you know, we would have to hire an outside company because
Right, you have to have a higher standard.
because, so that everybody understands, if you're gonna maintain a field at that level,
Right.
the amount of personnel that would have to be hired to keep the fields in that condition would never be cost effective.
So the borough.
So, I just want- yeah. So that was an option along with what Councilman Aversa was saying. We had looked at costs of just doing the Little League with a partial turf and then the outside grass. And, you know, that's,
The borough of New Providence, 10 years ago, was right where you are today. The borough engineer there also, and their fields, they have many more, were in terrible condition, all worn out, bad drainage problems, and they weren't working for them. Their maintenance budget for like 8 fields was $15,000. And their councilmen were like, why are our fields in such bad shape? They're blaming the poor DPW. It wasn't their fault.
No,
We
it's
had
not.
come in and done their study for them and said, your DPW doesn't even own aerators, slit seeders,
Right.
doesn't have license for pesticides down, you need to put down all this for the grubs. They don't have any of these licenses, they can't even do it. 10 years later, they've now hired outside companies that take care of each field differently, and they test the soil, they send it to Rutgers for tests, and know when they need to use the pesticide or not use pesticide, when to use weed and feed and when not to use it, when to split seed it and when to aerate it. It's a whole, when you aerate it, you gotta oversand it. There's a whole science behind it. You really need an agronomist on staff. You don't have an agronomist, it's another whole story, but it's expensive.
I was just wondering if it was any type of a hybrid situation on this field, or did you consider like how that would, like, where that would go on that field?
Well, we need to know, we really haven't established, because I hear some questions,
Too early?
how many fields do you really want? We were trying to maintain 4 fields, Little League, softball, 90-foot baseball, and a soccer field. If you're telling me you could use less fields, then things shrink down and services could change.
If you take the field out, can you put it back in A and?
Yes, of course.
What's the difference in the cost of, I mean,
It's kind of percentage-wise, so if I cut 20% off the field area, I cut 20% off the cost, it's pretty linear. Pretty linear.
So what's it supposed to maintain the turf field?
Not very much. The only thing they do for a turf field is once a quarter they brush it. The brushing machine comes with the turf. It sits behind the John Deere tractor. So those green John Deere tractors you see, it sits behind one of those. It's about 6 feet long. Has a kind of a fork that goes to the center that goes on. And it just, all it does is take the rubber and sand, or the cork and sand, and it just prevents it from compacting. You run it on the field about once a quarter. That's just sometimes the DPW, it's usually about an hour, maybe an hour and a half. You don't want to do it too fast. The only other thing that's done is the synthetic turf fields can build up static electricity. So they tell you to treat the field with basically a fabric softener. Use like a 40% to 50% ratio of fabric softener to water, and you spray the field. The other thing that's done, I have not really seen where it works, but people are doing it, is they make spray soil with disinfectant. Because they believe that because it's not grass, that maybe blood or other fluid products can be spread. There's no proof of that, but it doesn't hurt. So most of the clients we have usually treat it with a fabric softener once a year and disinfect it once a year. As soon as it rains, the disinfectant's going to be gone. So it's about a field this size, $8,000 to $10,000 a year.
And, correct me if I'm wrong, couldn't the softball, if we did do what I suggested, couldn't the softball play on the Little League field as well?
Yes.
Okay, so there you go.
But they have on use, so.
If you have words, you could start the games.
We have softball in this town?
Yes, your biggest use.
We do?
Yes, it's the largest use you have. I was
But
born.
my daughter's been playing at Fort Lee for years, so I'm just wondering.
No,
It's not on that field, I think the softball they're talking about is the adult softball that's played on the 90-foot field. But we did used to have a very active softball program. We had 4 teams in both age groups.
I believe it.
We had a lot of people coming in, so it was a very, I mean, the more kids we bring in, the more, you get a good leader and you get a good program.
I think if people want to get if they want to get another point of view in terms of what the expenses are concerning artificial turf, there are a couple of reports on it. One is on the University of Arkansas website, and another one is Duke University. and they break it down, and they talk about the difference between natural grass and artificial turf, and they mention the different types of turfs, different types of grass, and I think you get a better picture there that the difference as far as maintenance goes, artificial turf is sold, a lot of people have the idea that it doesn't require maintenance. It doesn't require maintenance. And once you add everything up, the difference between natural grass and artificial turf is not as great as people think it is. And frankly, it's something that needs to be considered, especially if artificial turf is going to cost $1 million more than grass and have a limited lifespan. It's not much different than grass.
So I would tell you that you don't need Arkansas and Duke to give you your numbers. You have over 100 fields within 5 miles. You could go to your municipalities and ask for their numbers. I know that there's a number of fields we've done. Those numbers are available. If you want them, just ask for them. I can get them for you. But you can just ask Sport Lee or Tenafly or Bergen Field or Crestfield. Ask them what they spend. They'll tell you what the surrender fields, ask you for replacement values. They can tell you. Those numbers are all public information, so it's very available. You don't need to go outside the state.
You said 10 grand a year?
For a field this size, because if you're going to go full blown Monty and put in fabric softener and also put in disinfectant, that's where all your cost is. As far as the brushing the field, I know, Mark, how much does a guy cost for an hour and a half? Well, just give me the highest guy. $100? Yeah, so it's going to be a couple $100 4 times a year to brush the field. The only other cost you have is material to buy fabric softener and disinfectant if you want.
And say that what the gentleman saying is true, Frank, let's just say it's true, but it still doesn't take into account the lost time of the plant.
Oh, no, you have to balance in your playing
The
time.
positives is that we could continue to play and rainy days and
You know that,
play in the mud and you don't have to play in the mud.
In terms of the hours for the soccer, or the events for soccer, you've got down there something on your...
Soccer's 171 hours.
171 hours. And how is that events, or is that...
That's, they rent it to, people rent it for an hour.
Well,
It's a game. It's a game of practice. It's some event playing soccer for an
the
hour.
question is, if, for example, if they're doing, if they have the little kids doing soccer, okay, they can have 4 events going on at the same time, okay? If they have the older kids, and they're playing 7-on-7 or 9-on-9, whatever, they can have 2 events going on at the same time. So, the devil's in the details in terms of whether these are events, whether this is actual playing time. Because,
I'm not sure.
He's trying to suggest that your
I'm not sure the
information is not correct. That's misleading, is what he's suggesting.
That the information has to be looked at carefully so that you're not assuming that that these are hours that are covering this entire area, or they could be split because 4 events are being treated.
Yeah, but I'm not sure what you're trying to accomplish. For instance, this is what.
There might not be as much activity going on as what these hours are.
Right. So that your question is, you're not sure if the activities are actually what are shown here. What's shown here is hours scheduled and rented through the rec department. What I will tell you is that's only representative of what they recorded. You probably have somewhere between 20% to as much as 50% more time unscheduled.
Every Sunday this.
So what happens is your rec department, that's not my information. Your rec department said this is only a partial, this is what they scheduled, it's not what actually is out there. The use, they said, is actually higher. The use is only one indicator, your field conditions, no. Your field conditions in horrible conditions, and it shows wear from use. So your use is actually higher than this
It
baseline
also
condition.
shows where from the fact that it's not being maintained.
No, that's not true, that's not true.
We're actually trying to increase the recreation program and increase the activity. So your numbers are historic, but going forward, we want to grow this program, more people will participate. Our high schoolers will get out there, we want to do more for them also. And your numbers also don't include, rainouts and inability to use the field.
No, again, the numbers are a guide. The numbers are telling you that if these numbers are even close to being right, you overuse the field now, not accounting for the usage you're not accounting for. Your field, if it was maintained perfect to a level that was like Yankee Stadium, we spend $75,000 a year, I have to cut the use in more than half to keep the field that way. Mark can't maintain it, there's too much use, it's not possible. You're setting him up for failure, you're setting your own town up for failure. You're back where you are 2 years from now.
Is it possible to get Green Acres moving? And if so, that you have to allow other people, right, open?
Yeah, Green Acres is not soliciting for applications right now.
Right.
Is it possible? Yes. And you'll still have to go through a process. You would be available for 25% grant, 75% loan. You probably can borrow the money cheaper yourself.
Yeah, but aren't we letting people in the field now already, though? You understand what I'm saying? Like, if you're letting
I
people...
wasn't going to the openness of the field, because when you have Green Acres money, you have to open your field. It can only be scheduled, it has to have 1 hour a day open for...
Percentage, right? Yeah, it's a percentage.
1 hour a day. But the issue is, Green Acres hasn't opened up grants nearby, because a town like yourself is not urban aid. So urban aid towns get 50 to 75% grant, 50 to 25% loan. Right now, with the economy, you can borrow money cheaper. So you're going to borrow money cheaper than urban borrowers for a loan. So right now, it doesn't make sense for you.
In the past, on the Little League fields, we had drainage problems. And you mentioned that the soil has been compacted, and that's the reason why the water's not draining out so quickly.
Sure.
And as a result, we have to either reschedule games or move to other towns to have those games. How do we take care of that problem if we still try to maintain grass on the Little League field?
I don't know if you were here earlier. What we had said was, if you were to maintain a grass field, you would have a synthetic turf lily field next to it and use this for your rainy days. When it rains, well, how many grass field raises, your coaches aren't going out using speedy dry. Speedy dry is great for that day, but it's bad for longevity of your field. It's really bad for
We don't use it no more.
I know, it kills them. So you're going to leave this field sit. And you're going to play your rain-out days over here, you're going to play your grass days over here. So your field's going to see a significant rejuvenation, the number of plays are going to go down, and you'll be able to maintain your grass. And it's going to give your DPW, when you have a wear in the right field where kids stand and go like this, it's going to give them a chance to shut it down and put some soil and let it grow back in.
Yeah, but you're also playing on the softball field where there's game scheduled. So
That's what I'm saying, yeah, but
I mean,
you're going to have to,
that's not really.
well, that's where the lights is coming in, if you put lights in.
Right.
Katie, when you were going through any of these plans, did you ever consider the fact that it may be a park? Like, we have a definitional problem here because it's our own number. As you say, New Providence has millions of spaces. Everybody else has millions of spaces. We have one.
Correct.
So we're talking about using this solely for fields. We're not, and I'm not talking about the little playground, I'm not talking about the tennis courts. What about the other kids or adults or whoever who are throwing frisbees out there, who are flying kites, having picnics on the lawn, where, you've got kids and blankets and rubber tires or cork? Did we ever take into account the fact that this is the only park?
So we did. I didn't get too much into it. It's a great question. When we laid out all concepts, when I'm talking about concept 2 right now, we left significant area around the site, and even within the fence lines, for use that has nothing to do with athletics. So whether it's grass or whether it's synthetic turf, there is a significant area here, which is as big as your parking lot, that could be used for other recreation that's outside of all play. There's another area in between there. There's areas down along here. We're improving the path for walking. We're literally doubling the size of the playground.
No, I'm not talking about parking, the playground and all that stuff. I'm talking about just places where you can go out and go across the field and fly a kite.
Yeah, other than...
We're talking 28 spaces. How big is 28 spaces, as far as the parking lot is concerned?
Well,
Is that-
probably
200 by 100.
280 feet by 60 feet. Wow, it's big, it's huge.
Can
As
you
big as
tell-
your parking lot outside.
Can you tell us some detail about that, because you didn't explain any of that.
Right, so in a park plan, because this is your only park, this can handle everything from a senior couple who wants to go for a walk, and just walk around, to a mom who wants to bring their kids that enjoy a playground or other open space, to people who want to play athletics. All the above can be done here. Now, if there's a Little League game that you play in this field, can you go fly a kite out and walk your dog? No. But when it's not, you can.
Well, Little League isn't closed, but what about the rest of it? But Little League has leased the field. Little League owns that field. So that's pretty much taken out of the hands of the rest of the public.
Well, the remainder of the park, I don't know if they lock it. Does Little League lock the field?
No.
No, it's open air.
They put a closed sign. They don't welcome visitors on there.
Okay, well, I don't know what Little League does, but the remainder of the park is open.
Well, I guess my concern is that anywhere else in the park while these games are going on. So now we're gonna put a turf field so that we can have more games. We're gonna put lights so it can go on longer during the day. So it kind of makes the time limited that anybody else could use that park for anything else, because you're gonna have balls being hit left and right.
You're turning a park into an athletic factory, which the question is that what is going on?
Well, obviously I'm not turning into anything, but the idea is that you currently have usage that shows that already. Usage is not Andy's usage, I didn't just pull it out here, I pulled out usage in hours, both on baseball, soccer, and softball, not including usage there, and that's part of what happens now. Maybe you're gonna promote your athletic programs and increase that usage, and if you are, you're absolutely less likely to handle it. But I will say, from an objective point of view, this park, as it sits today, unimproved, is already an athletic complex with amenities around it for pedestrians to go around it. It's not designed to have big, wide open spaces to fly kites. It's not what it was not. It was never made to be that. Can you do it when they're not playing? What?
It happens.
It'll still be able to happen between games.
Andy, I have a question. I see there's families that take their pets on that lawn. What's the,
Pets shouldn't be on that.
should
Pets
not
shouldn't
be,
be on there now.
well, what happens if there's an accident with a pet? I mean, if they go to the bathroom on the turf? What's the cleaning process? Disinfecting, what do you do?
No, it's no different than on grass. I mean, pets shouldn't be on your athletic fields at all.
No, they shouldn't.
They shouldn't be
But
on
there
the
are.
So if they go on it, they need to pick it up. It's no different than grass. Same thing, when you go to the grass, it sits on the grass.
No, I know, but there are, there's,
Andy, you were interrupted, but could you go back to explaining where the other areas are, other than what you...
Right, so
there's a lot of drawing on there that we didn't get to. And
Right, so
I
the
don't
way
understand what you have.
your park sits today, you have 4 athletic fields in one area, which is the majority of your park. We're just keeping that same area. Outside of that area is a walking.
What's to the left? There's the Little League field.
That?
What's all that in between? I don't know what we're doing.
That? That entire area is an expanded play set. So there's going to be 3 play sets in there. We have some pictures of what we were looking at. And it's only concept. We're looking at play sets, 3 play sets, something like that. Another one's a little bigger. There's another one that's bigger. Another one bigger, like that. And it gives different age limits from 0 to 5, 5 to 12, and then up. And that would fall in that area. So that area is double the size of the play area you have now.
Okay, so if you could just explain to me, where do we have the old...
The old play set, so your old play set's right here.
Oh.
Your new play set is twice the size, it goes all the way down here.
Oh, okay.
Your walking path is going to be expanded, so it's going to go around, but letting it back down here, it's still existing, and pick it back up.
Not expanded.
This area here is set to be somewhat of it's a shelter, comfort station, indoor, could be used as a pavilion. We thought we'd put brick pavers around it, we have gates that open up onto the field, we'd be able to hold concert there, art days there, exhibits there, wherever. We were adding over here another pavilion to be used as shelter or comfort for the basketball court. Somebody can go sit there and just hang out there for the day. And then it has access to the soccer field, proposed storage shed in that area, another comfort station or structure here for an area between there. We talked about a possible storage shed for DPW back here, 28 parking spaces here.
And what was there, where the parking spaces are now, what was there before?
Your playground.
Oh, that's what...
That's your playground. This is bigger, it's just twice the size of the playground. We expanded it back a little bit. We just moved the path now. The path existing goes like this. Now it's going to go like that. We changed it. We moved it. We added this drop-off area for pedestrians. The buffer between Johnson and the field, we tried to maintain as much of the buffer and the big trees that exist. In this area here is a lot of large, mature trees. We didn't want to disturb those. We're going to lose a few up here, but we can replant and re-landscape that area. The path doesn't have to be, listen, from an engineering concept, I'm not going to meander the path to save big trees in the concept, but, the idea would be if there's a big tree right there, the path can just roll in and roll around. We tried to create an area outside the baseball field and outside the Little League field that could either be natural grass or synthetic turf that could be used for things other than sports events.
whatever you want to use it for. It could be used, when they're playing sports events, this area can be utilized at the same time. Your park currently doesn't
And
really
that's
have
gonna
that.
stay all grass.
It could be all grass or all turf, I will tell you.
We're talking about what we used to.
Yes, this would be all grass. I would tell you that if it's synthetic turf, you can use it all year round, and people get much more use out of it, because when it's wet, and when people play on it, when it's there, as best you can.
Is it, I mean, obviously, other residents' concerns are the amount of turf and fencing and whatnot, and to, you know, to compromise with that, don't you think it's better off that we kind of make it smaller?
Oh, yeah, to answer the question for that, if you were to knock out the softball field, make the 90-foot baseball field first for softball, and 90-foot baseball, 50-70 baseball, redo this and make one turf field in this manner, you're now going to open up literally an area as big as baseball field for natural grass, for exactly what they're saying.
You can't play Little League. Anthony, you can't play Little League when you have soccer.
You could not.
You cannot have any Little League baseball when you have soccer.
Yeah, well, it doesn't conflict now.
It will in September.
Fall baseball.
Not full baseball, you won't be able to play.
We play on Sundays.
Yes,
Yes. Most fall baseball plays on Sunday.
You have clinics all Saturday. I'm just
And we're
saying.
soccer.
Not to go backwards, but the hours that you were calculating or given.
No, I didn't calculate, they were given to us.
The ones you were given, does that include all the hours that Dwight rented our field?
That is,
They're not there.
I'll say again,
No, but
the hours,
include Dwight?
the hours up here are the hours scheduled through your recreation department as committed by them. I don't know who it is, anybody who plays
Does
there.
Dwight get scheduled through rec?
I have no idea.
Who would they don't play here, they don't have a baseball. I know they
The
rent
numbers,
those out.
you
Oh,
can
did?
include Dwight using
Include Dwight.
I don't know.
They didn't play games here, they only had tournaments.
I don't know. We can ask that question. I don't know the
What I'm
answer.
saying, on the council, who does rec? Doesn't it?
I do. 2016, Dwight was not here at all.
I know, but they were there all the years before.
In 15, I can't attest to how long they, I know they.
Well, if they weren't here,
Yeah, but it's 16. Right. So what
Did
is
they
the
schedule
number?
through the rec department?
Yes.
They did. So their hours are in there.
No, they didn't have games.
It doesn't matter, they're.
No, if they practice, the hours would be in.
Right.
I think, that's my guess is it's every hour.
That's something that Paul would have to answer.
Andy, are this based on 2016 only numbers? or-
No, it's 2015 here, 2016 here.
So what are the 16 numbers?
So it's oddly enough, I don't know, so 16 numbers have only 114 total hours of softball, 204 of soccer. The 16 numbers have 171 of soccer, which went down, and 254 of softball, which went up. So, you know,
Yeah.
Just another quick question on the way the bandstand sort of right on Johnson Avenue, which is right in the residential area. Was any thought given to pushing that back to where the noise wouldn't be such an issue?
you can move it, I mean, any of the locations.
Any of these things can be moved.
And yeah, any of the locations where we proposed this pavilion in 3 spots, we could go in. It was just an area, it was just a way to show a possibility for it. It could go anywhere around here. We have 3, so this stand exists here also, so it could go there.
But you do try to consider the noise level on the residential areas. There's a parking-
Right, so I would just, again, if I put a bandstand here, it's gonna direct this noise to the homes. If I put it here, it's gonna direct this noise to the commercial. You don't want speakers facing your house, you want them facing away from your house.
And also, you kind of excluded the drop-off on Floyd Street. You know, there's a big circle there, which is a nice drop-off area, which may allow you not to have to take.
We're not proposing any access for it. If people use it, they can, we're not proposing any access. So we're not proposing any access through Floyd to the park. Any change.
Why is that?
I don't know what's there, whatever's there, we're not proposing anything.
There's a sidewalk that walks in there.
Right.
Yeah, there's a sidewalk. Why would that not be considered in the whole scheme of where people drop off and where people park? Because it's a nice big circle there.
If it exists today, they'll take it and reuse it.
There's no parking allowed.
Yeah. Whatever exists today. So I'm not.
There's no parking allowed on Floyd.
Right, to be clear, because I'm hearing a question that I'm not sure you can understand the answer. If you have access to the park that exists today, we're not taking it. We're not taking it anywhere. If it exists, it's maintained.
There's no
You
parking.
can't
There's no
park where you
parking
can drop off. and-
Yeah, they'll still be able to do that.
Outside of the circle.
Yeah, they'll still be able to-
A little more space than I think.
Yeah, they'll still be able to do that.
So that we don't push it all off onto Johnson.
Does your usage, you keep referring to games, does that include practices also?
It's everything, it's everything.
It's everything, okay.
And the area behind the tennis courts, or the batting cages?
Right there.
What do we call that again? The nature, the flowers? You guys aren't touching that, right?
It's not, it's actually, it's not on your property.
Oh, really?
It's not on your property.
No, I just don't want to.
We're not
Obviously,
working off
the
your
concern
property.
here is that, we don't want it to look like, everybody doesn't really want it to, they want to buffer it as best we can, It's obvious that something has to be done, but we want to make sure that everybody compromises. That's how I feel about it. I don't want to just do anything that's obtrusive to some of the neighbors, and whatnot. I think we really need to compromise as best we can.
You're not, we work within your limits. You're not getting any less buffers as part of the project. We expanded the field a little bit right here, but that was already walking path area. We put a parking lot in here, but that was already playground. So we put the path comes a little closer to the street here, but right now this is just kind of open moment, a couple of big trees in it. Can this path move? Yeah, we can move the playground out if you want to. It's movable. We're not changing the buffers. We didn't touch the area down here. We're not changing the access there at all, whatever exists there now. The area by the batting cages is actually off your property. The tennis courts is actually off your property.
And stand stays, correct?
Yeah.
The
We're not touching, concession stands here, that building is too big.
Yeah, that's great.
It's too expensive and too big.
All I ask of the council is to really do their research on the toxins involved in turf. Because my concern is that, with the further you get away from organic and grass and natural, the bigger problems we're going to have down in the future. We have a lot of diseases in this country that we can't explain other than toxins in the environment. When we start taking away grass and putting in rubber fill, my concern is that eventually research will show that we're being harmed by things like this. So I'd love to see the kids have more playing time. I think that's great. It's a park. I like to see trees. We're known for trees in our town. So I do have concerns. So the more grass we can keep, the happier I would be. But that's not because I don't want the kids to have more playing time. It's because I want what's best for the environment and for the people of the whole. So I'm just asking the please keep that in mind when they're looking at the design. It may cost more to have the grass and the turf, but I would truly like to see that taken into account. Or the cork, but we don't even know what the outcome of the risk from now.
Okay, I will cork, I put it in my wine bottles. That'd be a disaster. This is, I just want to, Anthony, just to your concept, a bigger version of it. It's not quite what you requested to talk about, but if you were to consolidate, this is a little closer. We would take this field and turn it, but you can eliminate the whole this whole area can come out and then the main turf. This would be actually just go back to grass and woods over there.
Right.
This would stay. This would all be turf. This would be turf, and then this would all be grass.
And the price is a lot lower, too.
Can you do it again?
Yeah, sorry. I'll bring it up. I'll bring it right to you. If you were to go to a consolidated version, this area here could all come out and just be woods.
Okay.
This will stay. This will be turf. The turf will come down here, back down here, and go down, and this will all go grass. When you take this field and you turn it, so we eventually need somewhere. That's a consolidated version.
It would be this way.
So it turn. It would be like that. It would sit like that.
And then the rest around it would be all
All grass. Well, we actually, I would try to put it back to grass in the woods. Question back there. Sorry.
So, just to that woman's point, this is right now, the CDC is doing a study, and it's going to release at the end of August on rubber fill. I mean, it's under consideration, I think they're...
Right. So I want to be careful.
I mean,
Yeah, I want to be a little careful, and that is, starting with myself, I am not an expert on ground-up cryogenic rubber frozen tires. I've seen a lot of studies on it. As I said last time, I think 10 states in the United States, health departments have deemed it safe. Numerous agencies have deemed it safe. There are tons of other reports that say it's not safe. It's been in play for 15 years. I'm not the expert. I'm not going to say whether it causes cancer or not. That's not why I'm here. I'm here to tell you probably 100 fields within 5 miles all have it. You can make your own determination on it. It's up to you. If you don't like it, you have another option. So the option list.
Andy, I think you hit it right on the head. The data's inconclusive. I think the data on grass is pretty conclusive over the last couple of millennia. But we're talking about fields that don't have this kind of history that they can actually have the data for. Now, I noticed in your report you said that if the rubber infill is lead-free. Well, lead is not the only concern.
No, I get that. Lead was a big...
There are a number of other toxins that have been proven to exist in the rubber infill. Whether or not it's going to lead to other things down the road, the data is unclear at this point. But I don't think it's a good idea to take chances with that when we already know that a surface the data is in is safe.
If I may, I did look up I did a little research on the rubber fill. And there was a professor in Scotland, I have his name, at Stirling University, who was requested by, I guess, the government environmental group to test the rubber. He did a series of analytical evaluations of it and found that there were a number of various levels of carcinogenic material in it. He was uncertain if the carcinogenic material would be released out of the material, which is the uncertainty of it. But the fact is that it exists, and the fact is that if it does exist, there would be no logical reason in my mind why you would consider rubber over cork.
Okay, again, I'm
not against
you're
cork.
right. I want to be clear. I think for us to engage in that conversation is pointless because the council's got to decide whether they want it or not. If they want it and they want to use it, you guys come back here and bring all the data you want. There's, for every study that is one like the one in Scotland, I've seen it. There's one somewhere else that says exactly the reverse. So I don't know where you fall, what you do. I can't make that decision for you. I can just tell you what various entities have, and I don't think this is the place to make that discussion.
But the only thing I will say is a lot of those other studies are trying to evaluate sickness caused by it, and you don't have the length of time most of the studies to do
20
that.
years.
That may not even be long enough, or you may not be able to identify it.
And again, I'm not the expert on it.
This is analytical chemistry. This actually came up with the carcinogenic agents that existed and the metals that existed within the rubber. That was sent to them.
I think I said last time we were here.
Yeah,
If I go into my home and just take the carpet on my floor, it's made of gasoline product. It's not the carpet on my floor in my house. When you smell, if you go into a house and you say, well, that new carpet smell, you know what that smell is? It's gasoline burning off. So I don't want to tell you to go into your life and not get your suit dry cleaned because these chemicals that people use that are dry cleaners, they die from cancer because they didn't clean your suits. But I'm wearing one right now. We can have a discussion that goes to the paint on the walls in this room. I mean, it's not a discussion for now because they haven't decided to use it. If you want to come back and they're going to use it, then have the discussion. You guys, it's your town. You guys decide what you want to do.
And it's safe to say that everybody in the public here, we're most concerned about not having the...
Of course. Of course. You want the safety of your residents.
Andy, I didn't realize that we had a field that's laying fallow, quite frankly. My kids were already out of school by the time I moved to Englewood Cliffs. I think that plays a very big part in the conversation now and not sometime in the future. I understand there's some negotiations or discussions that have to happen with the Board of Ed. But if you take that field, I think you're going to probably need it during the construction phase if this project is built as a given. But more importantly, in the future, if you take that field into consideration as taking some of the playtime off of the Woody complex, it will change all of the calculations.
Absolutely.
And for all we know, we may be with an all-grass possibility if you take a percentage of the play off of the Woody field. So I think my suggestion is that, that process be investigated thoroughly and carefully, because you really need to know the answer to that before you get too much more detail with this.
Yeah, if you were to take the school field, rehabilitate it, and eliminate soccer from this field, because soccer is a very aggressive use. This field could be maintained as an all-grass natural baseball. The use is it'll be able to support grass. Softball, softball in its infield is pretty aggressive, but that could be all clay, which is what it is now. So this requires some maintenance. You put the right maintenance on this field, get rid of soccer, all rectangular sports in their entirety, don't have them here, and move them all to the back of the thing, you could have all grass.
Then you're also talking about 2 fields versus 3.
Correct.
So the cost could be theoretically less in doing this 2 fields, all grass, whatever this service will be at the middle school. And the cost in combination could be less than trying to fit everything into this one location.
The only issue you do have at the middle school is the size of the field is undersized.
For which sport?
For soccer. It's undersized field.
Yeah, maintenance done on both fields.
For high school.
Yeah, you have maintenance on both fields, excuse me 1 second. I just wanted to,
Sorry.
that's okay. Obviously, we
Yeah.
thought about,
No, you got the feedback stuff. You.
obviously, we thought about this, and that's why we're setting this meeting up with
Board of Ed.
with the Board of Ed. And obviously, if there's any way that we can do grass, we're going to see if that could be done.
Absolutely.
Separate issue than lights, because, with situation that we're facing with the amount of kids and the programs growing, there are extended times that are needed to play. But what I am going to say, because it's going to come up whether it's today or it's going to come up 2 months from now, if you have grass, you need to maintain grass. And when you're maintaining grass, you've got to put chemicals down to maintain that grass.
Oh, no.
You don't have to.
What?
Yes, you do.
You have,
You're not going to maintain your grass.
But you
No, right, yes, I'm sorry, I apologize. You don't have to put it down, your grass is not going to be maintained.
organic gardening is, and
right, but
maintenance
you
is,
have
no,
to,
so.
but there are things that you have to still do, Ed. We had to cancel the movie nights because we absolutely used no chemicals, and the bug situation was out of control from the lawn. And I don't blame the kids or the parents for not wanting to sit there anymore, but
If you go
The bugs on a turf field, too.
No, if you go
Well,
to,
I'm just saying,
if you go to a more
there are other
organic,
conversations that are going to
fertilizer,
come
there's a lot of them
out
out there, and they're good,
Yeah.
The problem is with organic fertilizers is not as instantaneous. Your play, again, I just warn you of the fertilization and maintenance versus play. Just the play that you have that I know kills the maintenance. So getting that maintenance there to keep it, getting the fertilizers there, getting the right aeration, I need to cut your play. So if I can get a field, another field that does help that, because I can spread play out.
Because Andy, it's all about playability, right?
Playability.
That's what this whole discussion is about,
Playability,
playability.
correct.
So,
And rest time, we don't have the.
What's the
rest time
benefit of
on-
playability?
Yeah, it's just,
And I'm not advocating turf versus grass.
No,
I'm not either.
I'm not
I'm not either.
For
We're
maintenance,
looking
there's
at,
things you have to do.
we're looking at a global situation for this property.
Yes.
But if we've got this other field that clearly needs to be restored to some level anyway,
It does.
that's the real global picture, it's the one of the field that we have.
Yes, it is.
I think it's great to have that as like an interim use, and then potentially that's better, a global solution.
If your school board would work with you to get that field renovated, it's a great option to have an additional field. It takes pressure off this and what we're doing. No doubt about it.
If I may.
You've been waiting a long time, you're patient.
No, I was at the Board of Ed meeting, and so was Carol at the last meeting. The Board of Ed has already started looking at a use for that field. Their use,
What do they want to do?
whatever it is. I have
We
no
don't know,
idea.
we don't know.
We don't know. Carol wanted to talk to him about the use of
Right, I
it.
did.
We don't know.
I will be meeting with him, I have a meeting.
It's a pretty small field. There's not a lot back to the study.
He's got his ideas for that.
Oh, he does?
I didn't say.
It's just, when I went back there, it was a rectangular field, very small, with a very small baseball backstop on it, all worn out.
It wouldn't be used for baseball.
Right, and I think the tree line kind of cut diagonally across the back, so it kind of made it on rectangular field. I don't know if that tree line's the property line, but it does hamper the use of that field. But it would be good for the small touch, when we talk about small touch games, the 99 field, it'd probably be great 99 field or 77 field. Really good.
I don't know if this is relevant to you.
So,
or council.
go.
If we do this project, are we planning on bringing outsiders in to use this field, or is it just for residents?
I don't think your use numbers allow a lot outside time.
I thought I could find out.
Yeah, you don't really have the use to do it. So your use numbers, again, I'm gonna go back to, this was some great questions on use. And I'm gonna do a little more investigation with the recreation department, because I should do that due diligence. But the use numbers I had or what they gave me. I need to get a better understanding of what Englewood, I need to get a better understanding of, is these numbers the use numbers, or is there something else in there? Not know, is there corporates in there, is there rentals in there? Is there use above and beyond? So I'm going to try to get a better number on the use, so we get a real number. There's some great questions on use, so I want to make sure we have the right number to base it on. But right now, just this, you don't have time for outsiders. I mean, a little bit, but I would say that when the field's not being used, again, a great question in the back, you don't want to go out there and fly a kite out there. Maybe put a picnic blanket down, or just walk around.
I'm just trying to figure out how we're gonna justify the cost.
I think back, if you go back 20 years ago, the mayor and council sat here and debated it and said, we just want to have a better field in our town. And he responded that it was like $1 million to do it.
Almost.
It might have $1.8 million. Well, the problem is they ended up paying for it almost twice, because it went under. The contractor went under. Well, the contractor went under, there was a lawsuit over it. It was a complete disaster. And no fault in the mayor and council.
No.
With a bad contract.
And according to what you said, though, no matter what they did, because there was no downtime from that field, that field did not last 20 years.
Yeah, within
Probably less
two
than
years
that.
of the field being used, it was already worn out already.
Yeah.
Probably at the time was resodding it, trying to shut it down. It was really hard to maintain. The way they redid it in 2003, and it just kept going.
Well, because it's going back to what you explained,
You
that
can't
there's
use.
no downtime.
No downtime, you shut it down.
In 2003 was when it finished, was after the redo.
Yeah, it was
I don't
exactly.
think it was restarted again.
Yeah,
If ever. I know that the flag, we played it.
Well, yeah, you have to.
And the whole thing, the top surface, but it was never restarted after that time.
Okay, that makes sense. It
And it was one of
shows that.
It was one big pounding that really destroyed the field, and they weren't able to bring it back after that. That was, it was leased out to somebody, I don't know who it was.
LG.
But there was a huge amount of field damage, and that began the downfall of the field.
It was already damaged before that.
So,
We started that in 2000.
do you have any more questions? Just to wrap up, I'll be quick as we're not on. The idea of the study, again, was to look at your use, look at possibilities for the field, and let your mayor and council now engage in discussion of what they want to do there. I think we've heard a lot of great things tonight. I have some homework that I have to do. I'm going to look at another layout now. I'm also going to look at use numbers. And another council is looking into, talking to the middle school about what they can possibly or not possibly use that field for. So we've had some good takeaways from this. As we said, there's no decisions that were made tonight, and obviously we welcome any questions.
I have one question, if you could get those answers first, for the next time that we meet. Let's say that you wanted to do something like this in phases. And let's say the council came to a decision that they were gonna just try grass first, and do lights and try grass, and have a whole new layer. Now, this is hypothetical, I'm not saying you can try or anything. If you do that, can you find out what those numbers are? But also, how do you do that in phases, and are you allowed to then switch over?
It's a new project, so if you put grass in, and you want to go to turf, you're ripping the grass out.
So you, okay.
The underlayment for turf is about 18 inches of stone over synthetic turf that's infield with drainage, tied to the drainage system below. So one
So
doesn't.
can you get us the different numbers if you were doing?
Yeah, grass is $3 a square foot, turf is 10.
But going the opposite way, Andy, it's not so easy to range. Once you put the turf down, you're married to this thing.
I would say once you put the turf down, you're going to stay with it. You're not going to rip that out.
I'm just saying.
The infrastructure's there.
I'm just saying so we can have every option for the public. And us.
Take a look at
I
it.
like that, yep.
I want to thank Andy and his partner for coming tonight.
Thank you very much.
Also, I really want to thank everyone for the thoughtful discussion that we had tonight, the thoughtful questions, the thoughtful answers, and looking more. But I appreciate the nice tone that we had as well. Sure. We're going to open the public. Yeah, we're going to get back up there, we'll open the public. I spoke with the mayors in the area, who got switched over to turf. Peter Upton at Tenafly said it was the best decision he ever made, and he's been mayor there for a long time. And again, what's that?
Where is it?
We're at the municipal complex on Red Ridge Road.
So my whole purpose of doing this project and looking at it, natural grass or this turf. I just want to give our children a better opportunity to keep up with their peers athletically. This is an athletic field. It was taken out of its natural state as a park. That is a park right there. That's in its natural state. There are trails up there. I encourage everyone to go to them as well. But we are going to try to accommodate the walkers and the kite flyers and whoever else wants to meet. We'll put a chessboard out there. I'm going to take one.
We did it once, 6 chessboards, great.
Yeah.
Great use,
We'll do
great.
that also. And also for children who aren't into sports, we want to give them the opportunity to go play their musical instruments or do something in the band show. And we should all go support them also. Thank you again. Can I have a motion to open to the public?
So moved. Second.
I feel like we did this already.
Versa and McMorro,
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, is there anyone from the public who wishes to be heard now, again, before? Just come to the microphone, state your name and address.
Good evening.
We already have
Mayor,
yours.
Council members, Jerry Minisco on Sanford Drive. A refreshing change. We had a nice constructive meeting here tonight. I think if we start with the premise that the people who want turf and lights are not looking to give kids cancer, and the people who don't want turf and lights are not looking to destroy our kids' future and let the town go into dilapidation. If we start with the premise that both sides are really just interested in what's best for the town, maybe we have a better discussion like we did tonight. My personal feeling, and I think it's something that the council needs to consider, there's a few of them. The report doesn't comment beyond that the turf fields meet EPA guidelines. That doesn't give me a warm and fuzzy feeling. EPA told us that the air around zero was fine to breathe, and you know how many thousands of first responders got cancer there. EPA tells us currently that it's okay to dump coal ash into rivers and streams. I don't think that's a great idea. And it's not just the lead that we're talking about. I mean, if we use lead-free rubber infill, there's other toxins that we need to be concerned about, and I think the jury is out on it. With even the slightest possibility that that's going to be a danger to our kids, I think on that reason alone, turf should be disqualified. I think Russ really made the best point here tonight, is that we don't have a global picture yet. We need to discuss this with BOE. I know I've been to the meetings, I've been speaking with board members. They are looking to redo the field there. And I think doing something jointly with the Board of Education, which we've discussed, having some cooperation amongst the town and the board, is going to be a great way to save the town money, save the Board of Education money, and I think it's premature to make decisions about what to do with this field until we know what we can possibly do with middle school. It may be that if we can split the usage up between the two, we don't need to use the turf field. And with all due respect, Mayor, it's not just a ball field. I know it says already taken out of its natural state to be a ball field, but for most of the residents in this town, that's our park. That's pretty much our only park, and it's more than just a ball field to the vast majority of the residents that use it. It's a ball field to the Little League, for the soccer players, for a good portion of the town, but it is a park to almost everybody else, and I think that needs to be taken into consideration as well. The study also doesn't consider the impact of lights on the surrounding residential neighborhoods. Now, I love LED lights. I've relamped my house entirely with LED lights, and as Andy pointed out, they're great. You can point them and it'll be pitch black on the other side of the line. That's fine. I'm not worried so much about the light pollution from the lights. What I am worried about is the increase in the amount of time people are going to be spending in that park and the impact it's going to have on the residences around it. I've spoken to every single one of my neighbors, and every single one of them, without fail, the only one I haven't spoken with is Mr. Romano, are against the idea of lights, only because of the amount of extended time people are going to be in that park. As I've been saying in previous meetings, I bought a house next to a park. I knew what to expect when I did. I get great advantages from it. I take the disadvantages in stride because it was my choice. It was not my choice to move into an industrial sports complex. It was not my choice to move into a place where people are going to be playing ball to all hours of the night, and parking cars, and making noise. can tell you how much litter I take up off my lawn every weekend. I do it happily, because as I said, I get advantages from it. Also, the amount of increase in time you're going to get from the lights, I think is minimal compared to the expenditure you're going to have. You do just a cost-benefit analysis of how much extra playing time you get with the lights. To spend $1.2 million lighting those fields seems extraordinary to me. The comparison of hourly costs that is in the report lists with turf fields 160 hours of usage per week for 40 weeks a year. That translates to over 17 hours a day, 17 days a week of usage. Even if you have two things going on at once, that seems extraordinary. 17 and a half hours of usage, if you break it down on two fields going simultaneously, that means 7 days a week. You're going to have almost 8 hours of games per day, every single day for 40 weeks. I don't think that's the kind of usage we use. And frankly, I don't think that's the kind of usage we need. The turf field, the natural grass field, he estimates at 60 hours per week for 30 weeks. Even that, it's more reasonable, but that translates to 8.5 hours a day, 7 days a week. If you have two games going at once every single day for 7 days, that's 4 hours a day, even on a Wednesday. Doesn't seem reasonable. I'm sure there are some days in the middle of the summer, kids are not in school, that you will get that kind of usage, but the vast majority of the days, it seems like a lot. And I can tell you that from the person who lives there and sees the park all the time, and the activity that goes on there, I don't think we have that kind of usage. Frankly, I don't think we want that kind of usage. Comparison of hourly cost is broken down as something in the neighborhood of $32 an hour based on that 160 hours spread over 10 years, I think it was. 10 years. 10 years. The same for grass, at 60 hours per week, 30 weeks a year, at 18,000 hours, comes out to about $72 per hour cost. I don't think that's necessarily a fair comparison when you consider the lifespan of the turf infield. Just going out 10 years, the lifespan of the turf is not enough, because what happens on year 11, 12, 13, 14, 15? At that point is when you start to realize how much more the turf field is costing you than a grass field. And yes, you will have to spend more money to maintain and possibly replace a grass field as well down the road, but it's not going to cost you anywhere near the millions of dollars we're talking about to replace a turf field. Andy said that the lifespan is now 15 or 20 years. The old fields, they told us 10. Attorney General is investigating them now because they don't quite believe those claims. The maintenance, and we talked about going locally, you don't have to go to Arkansas. If you read all the articles in the papers, all those people in charge of maintaining those fields have said that the maintenance involves at least quarterly having a professional contractor come in to deal with the field, and twice a month having their own people do it. So I think the cost is a little bit more as well, and if we don't have that kind of maintenance on the field, I think the lifespan is going to shorten as well. So when you're considering the cost of this field over the long term, you've got to go more than 10 years. I don't think $32 an hour over 10 years is really going to be an accurate measure. I'll look through my notes and make sure I hit everything. Lastly, it's just the overall cost. These proposals range from $2.5 million to almost $4 million. For what we are trying to accomplish here, I think we can do it at a much lower cost. I'm all for renovating that field. It needs it. Everybody in this room is for renovating that field. It needs it. I think we've heard that today from people on both sides of the argument over turf and lights. But I don't think that spending that kind of money, especially in these kind of budgetary times, is a good idea. Even if it's bonded, we're going to be increasing our debt service significantly on that kind of money, plus the upfront money, plus the invariable cost overruns and whatever else you get with municipal contracts. I can see this project costing much more than what the estimates are. And I don't think that that's a good way to spend taxpayer money. Thank you all for being attentive and taking this into very serious consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For anybody else? I don't see anyone else. Can I have a motion to close the public? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Is there any unfinished or new business that anyone on council wishes to bring up?
No, I just, Andy, all of the comments by the residents, that everybody brought up very good points. If you can confirm all your numbers, all your data, all your costs, I mean, from every person that got up, had some good ideas, and at the end of the day, we have to just keep talking about it until we come up with the idea that's gonna, work. So I appreciate that, and just, thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. Give a motion to adjourn, please.
Second.
All in favor?
You were waiting for that. You were waiting for that.